This is Luciano from Kingston, Jamaica, land of wood and water. And guess what? Genesis Day to teach youth some roots and culture. Seen? This is Luciano from Kingston, Jamaica, land of wood and water. And guess what? Genesis Day to teach youth some roots and culture. Seen?
Good morning, London town. Welcome along to the Big Gen 91.6 FM. First things first, Sister Slushy, enough respect for the last, how much hours now? 2 hours, London town, early morning, breakfast time. You got Sister Slushy in the house every Sunday doing the biz. See? Enough respect for that, sis. Well, London town, another week, another dollar, eh? What a week of ups and downs for the nation at large and for us, the black community, also. Before we even go into any talk, you know what the coup is? You have, I'll give you a minute today to go next door, run outside, tell the people the Genesis People's Talk Show is now in process. See?
Where'd you help? Tell me what you want. On Genesis FM, the station that's educating today's young generation.
I want to leave Genesis now. Whoa, DTI, I want to leave Genesis now. Roman Chugomainat and Steve Harper said that,
Okay, on the other side of that. Did you hear them? Okay, let's go. I don't know where to start today. As you all know, People's Talk Show. Whatever you want to bring to our attention, whatever you think London Town needs to know about, you can give us a bell and tell us, let us know. I'll give you that phone number in a second. For all of those that's already got it, knows it off by heart, you can start giving me your phone checks from now. Tell me how we sound out there. I'm getting a slight humming in here. So wherever you are in the London region, phone us, let us know how do we sound out there, what's happening. Same time, London Town. Same time, London Town. Some information for you from this week's press. The obvious story, the story that gripped the nation. Personally, I don't even really want to go into that too tough. Again, it's the People's Talk Show, and if there's anything that you want to bring to our attention, please feel free to do so. Couple of things for you today. Listen to this. The wife of Shija Lapita, unlawfully killed during a brutal arrest, wants the policeman responsible charged with murder. Her call, echoed by campaigners, followed the Crown Prosecution Service's admission at the High Court that there was a flaw in their decision not to prosecute PC's Paul Wright and Andrew McCallum. Another death in police custody. What was we talking about last week? Wasn't we talking about whether it's on the increase or whether things is getting better? Well, there's another one, and again, I don't want to go into it too tough because it's going through the legal process now, but the police kicked the brother in his head, done all kind of things to him, and they still went to court, got off. So another family's got to go through the same process yet again of re-fighting or going away and looking at their strategy again and coming back and trying to get justice from another angle. If you know anything about that case, if you've got any information that you think we need to know, give us a bell and let us know. And just in case you thought that we was on our own in our suffering, I don't know if anyone saw the front page of the Caribbean Times with this man. There's a black man on the front cover, teeth missing, face swollen, etc. Listen to this. A 30-year-old Haitian told police officers last week how their colleagues had sodomized him with a toilet plunger and then forced it into his mouth. Abner Louima made his claims from a hospital bed where he is in a critical condition with a torn intestine, punctured colon, ruptured bladder, missing teeth, and severe bruising. The sick antics have prompted a massive political rout in New York, with crime-busting Mayor Rudolph Giuliani ordering a public inquiry and the city's police force facing a $55 million suit for damages. Yet again, London town. If anyone's under any illusion, these things are in our press. And at the same time, why is it that the black press just reports doom and gloom? Every other page is either a robbery, a murder, a police beating, or something disastrous that's happening to someone out of the black community. Do you think that our black press is doing the right thing by reporting these kind of stories? Shouldn't they be more positive and put in some positive coverage? Or are they doing the right thing by giving us this information? That's two different cases, both on different sides of the water, but both the same. Is police brutality increasing? Again, London town, it's up to you all if you want to talk about it. People's Talk Show, and it's your time. Sticking with that. And you know what? At the same time, I'm going to give out the phone number so we can get some phone checks from all over London. 0507 008 7426. That's the live link number. 0507 00 87426. And I'm not going to get into these things too heavy, London town. I'm just throwing things out in the air, and you all can, if you want to deal with anything else, feel free to. Now, just one other thing out of the papers for the moment, and I thought that this sums up, this sums up what's happening today. This sums up what's going on. The final call: killer mosquitoes in Walt Disney World. Orange County issued a medical alert concerning mosquitoes that carry a potentially fatal viral infection that has affected one of America's favorite amusement parks. Walt Disney World is giving guests less leisure time for many outdoor activities, and the company is also advising guests to wear long-sleeve shirts and pants after dark and use plenty of mosquito repellent to guard against encephalitis. All of you people that want to take your children to Disney World, there's killer mosquitoes to the point where Disney people are even warning against going certain places at certain hours, because I said that the mosquitoes come out mostly at night. And look at that, huh? Don't you think that just sums it up all up, London town? Imagine, huh? Somewhere like there, that's just supposed to be, I don't know, like the play center of the world in terms of the theme park and Walt Disney and all his characters and whatever. They got killer mosquitoes out there, me. You understand? I wonder how that's going to affect their revenue. They're actually saying that, don't worry, you mustn't worry about it, still come. But 11 people have fallen into comas and subsequently died as a result of being bitten by these mosquitoes. For all of you young people that's begging Mummy and Daddy, take us Walt Disney, well, now watch out for the mosquitoes. Give us a call, London town, tell us what you got to say about that. 0507 00 87426. We seem to be losing these calls at the moment, so if you can keep trying, and we'll see what's running. Now, London town, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, this is me personally now, we now, as a black nation, as a black people, right, one thing I find, and again, in fact, two things I want to talk about. The first thing, the black community, the black nation, always spends a lot of time saying or acknowledging or taking the praise for being the most understanding or the most loving people. We will draw everyone in, and we're, arms outstretched, etc., etc. Now, tell me something. Why is it the case, right, that we, same black people, in our community, right, in our community, we have disabled people, disabled children. We have children, some of our children have got a disability that puts them at a disadvantage in terms of fair competition out there in the market world, in the educational world, etc. Some of our people are disadvantaged in different ways. You know, now you look at that, they highlighted that princess and she went to Mozambique, and there was people that limbs had been blown off, some had lost their arm, some had lost their leg, etc., etc. Disadvantaged people, disabled people. We here have our own, for whatever reason, be it, you know, through the doctor gave mummy some drugs, or daddy was a cold kid, or whatever, but we have our own disabled community amongst us. But you know what? We as a black people, we seem to be the most, we just alienate them from us, London Town. I'm going to get back to this. Good morning, Genesis Radio. Am I bridging? Oh, as opposed to 05. Yeah, big up for that bridging. Okay. Okay, one love. My fault, London Town. 0705. Sister Slushy should have told me that. 0705 000874 26. All right, that's 0705 000874 26. Good morning. You're in tune to Genesis. Your name, please? Nah?
Nah, well, the call, I can't hear the callers coming in too clear.
Okay, Bridging. We're going to try and sort that out, yeah? Big up for the call. Okay, London Town, we seem to be having, you know, tell us, you give us a call and tell us, does it sound clear to you? Seem to be having phone calls are not coming through too clear. I don't know. Let's have a look at this. We'll take this call. Good morning, caller. Yeah, Bridget.
How you doing?
I'm safe. You?
Not too bad at all, thank you very much. Looking forward to a good show.
Okay.
The only problem is a bit crackly over in East London.
You're in East London, a little bit crackly.
Yeah.
All right. We're
trying to loud and clear.
Okay, Bridget.
Okay, my man?
Enough respect for the call.
Listen every time, yeah?
Yeah. Big up.
Cool. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, London Town, we've got East London represented in the house, saying, and we got who? Where did my brother come from? I think it's south, but usually he's on the road this time of day. We're going to take this call. Good morning, Genesis. Your name, please.
Good afternoon, brother. Good morning, brother Commissioner.
Yes, good morning, sis.
I'm calling from Hackney, as you know.
How are you?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Very clear this side, yeah?
Big up for that call.
All right, have a good day. Okay. Bye-bye.
Yes, London Town, it seems like you all are wide awake, eh? Well, I'm going to carry on into it. As I was saying, the black community, all right, we seem to have a stigma about our disabled members within our community. You know, as far as you got some black people that would describe them as handicapped. You know, now words like that can just smash a person's confidence to pieces. You know, you had an organization the other day called the Spastic Society, who, after consideration and after talking to their publicity people, said, boy, you know what, we need to change the name of this organization. You know, they helped children with cerebral palsy, and things like this. But they had to actually think about what term they was using, what's the words they was using to describe these people, and they found that, no, it's not correct, let's change it. Good morning, Genesis, your name, please.
Good morning, this is Trevor from Camberwell.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, last week at the end of the show, somebody rang up and asked you if the people of Munster had British citizenship.
Yes.
And you emphatically said yes.
Yes.
But this is incorrect, because under the 1983 British Nationality Act, they have got citizenship of British dependent territory, which gives them no right of entry or abode in the United Kingdom.
Who, the Montserratians?
Yes, Montserratians.
Yeah.
Right, because under the Act, they've created three categories. You have British citizenship, which give you full citizenship.
Yeah.
You have British overseas citizens, like the Asians in Kenya. And you got citizenship of British dependent territory, like the people in Montserrat, the people in Turks and Caicos, Cayman, Bermuda.
Okay.
But the the racist bit is that the people of Gibraltar and Falklands, who are also dependent territories of the British Crown, were given the first-class category by amendment of British citizenship, which allowed them full entry and permanent abode in the United Kingdom. Because obviously Gibraltarians and the Falkland people are white.
So tell me something, Bridget.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the British government actually state that whoever from Montserrat wanted to, that they could come to England?
Yeah, this is on a special dispensation that the volcano, the volcanic crisis, they could come to England on what they call leave to stay. Which, for example, the volcano died down, they rebuild Montserrat, they would have to go back home. They don't have full permanent abode or residence in the United Kingdom. They have a special compensation because of a crisis, a climatic crisis.
Okay.
They have not been given British citizenship.
So other than this, if this volcano had occurred...
They would not have no right of entry or abode in the United Kingdom. Whereas the people of Gibraltar and Falklands, who are also dependent territories, were given full rights.
Yes.
So when this act was being passed, the people of Gibraltar, Montserrat, Bermuda were all grouped together. But a lot of conservative MPs protested and said, look, give the people of Gibraltar full citizenship. They didn't say because they are white, they used code words. They said because of our long historic connection with Gibraltar.
Yes.
But they had no historic connection with Montserrat, just like Gibraltar, Hong Kong, 300 years.
300 years, yes.
And another thing that's not been publicized, I think I mentioned it last week, but I've got it in front of me. This Margaret Thatcher's Nationality Act, which brought in this discrimination, was based upon a Labour government green paper.
Yeah, it was highlighted.
Which I've got in front of me, which, let me just paraphrase it, just 1 minute.
Yes.
In paragraphs 13 to 16, it is suggested that the present citizenship of the United Kingdom and colonies should be replaced by two citizenships. British citizenships for those who have close ties with this country and a British overseas citizenship. Therefore, it was a Labour government who created different categories. And Margaret Thatcher in Parliament actually congratulated them. She said, I got lots of my ideas on nationality from the great socialists, the great internationalist Labour government.
Yes.
And why I bring this up, most Afro-Caribbeans, election after election, quite rightly I suppose, vote Labour. But Labour has done a lot of things against their rights or wishes.
Yeah, that's detrimental to us.
That's detrimental. But I myself, last election, I went and voted Labour under the belief that, one party was in for too long. But when it comes to nationality, there's no difference, I'm sorry to say, between Labour and Conservative.
Okay, now tell me something. Have you come to realise that over a period of since they've been in, or because you said that you in fact voted Labour last time?
Well, I realised this from quite some time ago, but it's a matter of who can you vote for. I couldn't vote Conservative because they are blatantly racist.
Okay.
Not just a nationality law. And Labour, when it comes to nationality law, they're not as progressive as they presume to be. But who can I vote for? I mean, there's no point voting Liberal because they're never going to get in.
Okay, so then...
So it's choosing the way of two evils, I suppose.
Okay, so but at this precise moment, what you're saying is that we've got the choice of between the lesser of two devils kind of thing.
But we must know, even though we might vote for that devil, we should know him.
We should know him.
Know him in terms, not be glary-eyed like some Caribbeans and think that everything that Labour do is going to bring in the New Jerusalem, the new socialist paradise. Yes, they have some good policies, maybe being compassionate and benefit. When it comes to nationality law, they seem to delve into this vicious nationalism. That is the weak point I've observed. From the 1960s to Common Law Immigration Act, Labour. 68 Common Law Immigration Act, Labour. Keep on keeping Ian Smith in Rhodesia, who said that? The great socialist Mr. Wilson, a Labour Prime Minister. So there's a long history. When it comes to nationality, they seem to lose all their progressiveness.
Okay.
And they apply themselves on being internationalists. But when it comes to nationality within the UK and non-white people coming into the UK, then they lose that progressiveness and internationalism.
For real.
That is my point.
Okay, Bridget.
But anyway, monster, they are citizens of British dependent territory, which officially have no right of entry into the United Kingdom. Just one last point about Eric Gary, the Prime Minister of Eric Gary, former Prime Minister of Grenada. He died recently.
Yes.
In the black press, I was very disappointed to know they were hailing him as a great working class trade unionist leader.
Yes.
People have very small memories because when he was in power, he was just as dictatorial as Papa Doc in Haiti. He had a gang called the Mongoose Gang, which terrorized people like the Tom Tom Macoutes in Haiti. Now when he died, he's a great working class hero.
Okay, well...
I mean, the true hero of Grenada was Maurice Bishop, who tried to bring health and a lot of services to the country.
Yeah, they took him out.
But they took him out, and I mentioned Maurice Bishop. How many people remember him? Hardly anyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that, sir.
All right, Bridget.
Okay, then. Thank you very much.
Big up for the information.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, London Town, did you hear what the brother said about Eric Geary and the black press this week? They did have one article that I saw, that actually asked the question, was he a people's champion or an Obeah man? You know, I'm not going to comment too much on that. I'll leave that for you to decide and talk if you want, but it is in the black press. London Town, at the same time, please, I don't want us to get away from this, right? Too tough. It's something that we need to address. The disabled in our community, our disabled community, we seem to have our disabled locked behind closed doors, locked away from society, all right? We don't really associate with them. We don't really try to bring them into the community, you know? How many times do you see functions going on? We have our function, we gather and say, oh, we're people, we're community, let's do our thing. You'll never see no wheelchair-bound people, or children suffering from cerebral palsy, or children with limbs missing. You know, very rare you'll see people there, like the elderly that can't walk, you know, or they're wheelchair bound for whatever reason. And, you know, in a lot of cases when they do come out, it's so hard to get into the building, to get into whatever building is putting on whatever event. So we just seem to be pushing our disabled community further and further away from us. We have parents out there with children that have ailments, you know, that some of them, they're struggling terribly hard just to maintain a balance, just to try and, you know, even make their child live a better life. But again, you talk to a lot of them, they'll tell you that they find themselves isolated in their community. It's like, we don't even really talk about it, you know. And I want to see this morning if you all are going to respond to this, because it's something that we do need to look at. We have disabled people in our community. What are we doing for them? How many times do we consider them, you know? And consider, you know, us, look how hard it is for what they call an able-bodied person. Look how hard it is. You know, so imagine a disabled person. You know, black people would say, oh, racism, can't get this job, can't get that, can't. What about if you're disabled and black? You're even, in society's eyes, more disadvantaged. This is why they had to make law to say, you know, every workplace has got to employ at least one disabled person. I want to hear from some parents. I want to hear from some children. If you know, I've got a child that has an ailment or has a special needs cared in, because it goes across the board as well in schools. If you have a child that has a disability, they come under what's called special needs, you know, and they can get help even to go to mainstream school. A lot of people want their children to go into the mainstream. They don't want them to go into special schools where they, again, are being separated from their community. How many of us watch the Lewisham Education minibus driving past with, you know, a lot of black children in there, again, children with disabilities, and we just watch it, you know, we won't go and talk to them, we just watch it, and it just drives past, and that's the only time that we will see them or acknowledge them. Do we actually go out and look for them? Do you know of any community organizations specifically geared to helping our disabled within the black community? You know, and we, again, this stigma with black people, you know, London Town, is stigma with black people. I'm going to show you from a personal experience. The very first job I had called job, them times, they had a thing called 16 up, all right, which was like the first job training that any government came with, I believe. If there's anyone out there older than me and knows that they was on something else, let us know. But I was put on this 16 up, leave school, 16, or from 16 upwards anyway. And they put me in a job. It wasn't a proper job, it was just like a trainee job, and they give you something like, I think that time, £23 a week or something. Well, the first place that I was put in there used to be a children's hospital called the Belgrave Children's Hospital in Kennington Oval. It was closed down. They closed down a few years ago. I think now it's turned into homeless accommodation. But that was the first place that I went, and I was employed and told, yep, you're going to help this man, which was an Italian gentleman, teacher trained, very nice man. And I was told, right, you and this man, he's a coordinator, and the two of you are going to build a toy library for children. You know, at that time, it was mainly sickle cell. I've forgotten the lady's name, but she was like one of the greatest pioneers in our time for sickle cell. And she, in fact, campaigned to get money to set up this toy library, specifically for children with disabilities. Now, one of the children that I was told I had to work with, 16 years old, London Town. Now, personally, never come across severely disabled people. You know, never. When I was a youth, we used to call them all kind of names. And on the street, I was actually frightened of them to go near them, like many people were. Anyway, the time came, I'm there, I'm working, we gathered all of our toys, we've done this, we catalogued thousands of toys, everything, opened the doors. Very first child that came to us, his daddy was from Kuwait. He was an oil sheik, they called him, oil sheik. And his firstborn son had cerebral palsy, terribly, severe cerebral palsy, London Town. Couldn't sit up on his own, couldn't talk, didn't have no coordination, no control over his limbs, nothing. Beautiful little boy, about 9 years old. Couldn't talk, couldn't put a sentence together. Now, they said to me, right, Commissioner, they didn't know me as Commissioner, but they said, Commissioner, you know, got to work with this young man here, and this is what you got to do. I had to try and stimulate him with colors, with textures, you know, and just work with him basically with toys. And because there is such a therapeutic healing in playing, London Town. That's why it's important, you know, to know what toys you give your children to play with, because the children from playing can learn so much. It's unreal. And for our disabled children, it can be very healing. It can help in the healing process. You've got games that involve doing exercises, etc. Anyway, you've got the kind of general idea. London Town, I'm going to tell you the truth, you know. You see, when I first saw this little boy, petrified, wanted to run a mile. I've never come this close to, you know, a disabled person, as I said, let alone touch one. Now, when this little boy met me, couldn't talk, but, you know, obviously he could recognize people, someone was in front of him, etc. You know, the first thing he wanted to do, he wanted to feel up my face. Now, again, you know what we're like. You don't want no one to touch you and, you know, get too intimate. This little boy, all he wanted to do was feel up my face, you know, and it's because my skin was black. He never saw that. So he was, you know, in his mind, even though he never said, he was wondering, does it feel like mine? And, you know, and he was a lighter shade than me, you know, you know, but London Town had to sit down there for half an hour, bite my tongue, whilst this little boy, and I mean really, you know, put his hand all in my face, feel my nose, feel my cheeks, feel my eyes, feel my hair. He was couldn't believe my hair. You know, now he was learning. This was textures that he never felt before. But I, from my part, was petrified. You see that first week? Petrified. But when I got to know him, you know, when I really sat down and spent time with him, this little boy was so intelligent behind the disability that he had. He was so intelligent, you know, that we just grew tight. Me and him grew well tight. And at the end of the 6 months, even the nurses and the doctors were saying they couldn't believe it. His dad, they couldn't believe the improvement with this little boy. By the time we finished with him, he knew colours, he could tell you green, red, etc. He knew different textures, he knew what a potato felt like, what plasticine felt like. Simple things like that enhanced the quality of his life. You know, now that was, as I said, many, many years ago. I want to know today, are these things still happening? Are we still working with our disabled children? Are we bringing them back into the community? Are we making our able-bodied children and able-bodied people that have this stigma, are we educating them, you know, to accept the disabled community amongst us? It's something that we need to do. Now, I know you all ain't going to talk about it because you all are just, I'm not disabled, so it doesn't affect me. You know, well then what's this all about, unity in the community? The community consists of many, 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 many different fractions, you know, and these people are amongst the most vulnerable in our community. The most vulnerable. Now, if you all know, as I said, of any community organizations, if you know of anything that is there to help, particularly our disabled, you know, and I'm not talking about council-run places, I'm talking about us doing for self. Give me a call and let us know. 0705 00874 26, yes. We got the arrival of Mr.
Good morning, London Town. Daddy Coolie inside the house. Got a large up the Commissioner. Say warm respects going out to Lady Slushy inside the house. And a big shout going out to all of you, the listeners. Once again, the live number is 0705 00874 426. And talking about, well, I've come in on the conversation about the handicapped children and etc. What about the mothers out there who was induced in years ago to take certain drugs to help them with their pregnancies and in effect caused disability in their children? Okay, are there any parents out there who've had that sort of situation forced upon them because, i.e., rather than go through natural birth, they took certain drugs that were prescribed and now their children are handicapped or disabled in some form or way? What sort of struggles have you been through with the system or with your family or within yourself? If you'd like to give us a call and tell us some of your experiences, if you're out there listening, that would be an enlightening part of the show as well. Okay. Also, I'd like to send a shout out to the callers who checked us this week down on Thursday down at the Lucian Way Centre. We say thank you for coming to that open day where you got to meet some of the presenters, and we do it again this Thursday if you'd like to come down there and link up with the Genesis crew. All right. This Sunday is the African Caribbean Market, Sunday the 7th of September, and every first Sunday of the month, and that's situated down at the Willesden Library, and that's 95 Willesden High Road, London, Northwest 10. And on sale down there you've got books, arts and crafts, African garments, head wrappings, workshop, incense, jewellery, natural health products, foods and drinks, multicultural toys, posters, ornaments, computer, user forum, frame prints, X amount of things. It's an ideal place to pick up that extra special gift that's different from picking up from your local store, okay? And it's the African Caribbean Market, and it's every first Sunday of the month, and that's this Sunday, okay, the 7th of September, situated at the by Willesden Library. We're going to see if we get any calls on the disability and the other subjects that Commissioners mentioned this morning. A lady gave me a book on Thursday, and it's has in here the islands. And because I said I didn't know about Anguilla, she brought the book down and gave me a page on Anguilla. So I'll be reading that and giving you a little history of the island of Anguilla as I learn it. Okay, see, there we go. Anguilla as I learn it myself, okay, Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah, London Town, Daddy Coolie's got international now, see? And they're telling me about all of the islands. Anguilla, yeah, beautiful island. I'd love to go there myself one day, but I want to hear as well. Tell us about Anguilla. See? At the same time, please, we need some calls. Now, the young people, a lot of parents with disabled children fight for their children to get into mainstream education. They don't want them, as I said earlier on, to go into special needs schools for, you know, whatever reason. So I know that there's schools all around South London, all around in Lewisham, in Southwark, etc., that has maybe 1 or 2 disabled children there. Okay? And the parents have had to fight hard to keep them in mainstream education. You children that go to school and see maybe disabled children at school, how do you treat them? You know, are you ignoring them? When I went to school, primary school, we had a girl who suffered from polio. And in those days, again, as a result of being given, a mother being given, I think it's the thalidomide drug, all right, the little girl developed polio. And she used to walk in school, she always had braces, leg braces, okay? Now, me as a youth at school, primary school, and the rest of my friends, at first we used to give her a very hard time because she was different from us. You know, we used to tease her and whatever and whatever. And one day it dawned on us, you know, this little girl was at a more of an uphill struggle than us. You know, we could run, we could do this, we could do that. When she wanted to run, and London Town, try and imagine this, you know, leg braces. And in those days, the leg braces was made of metal and thick leather brown straps. And they bolt round both of your legs with some big leather boots on. That was polio victims. And she couldn't bend her feet, you know, again, she couldn't bend her legs because of the brace. Now, eventually it wasn't nothing to us. We actually used to look out for her and, you know what I mean, walk with her and talk with her and just generally try and make her be a part of us. Now, this was a little white girl, you know. I don't want none of you to get it wrong. This was a little white girl. But at the end of the day, she was still a human being as far as we was concerned as children. And that's how it was them times. Now, I see we have some of our children today, I'm talking about the black community now, has their children, again, fought for them to get them into mainstream education. They go to school, and believe it or not, it's the black children that ignore them. It's the black children that don't talk to them. And if you know, go and check it for yourselves. If you know a school that has got a mainstream school that has a disabled child in there from within your community, check it out and see how that child is being treated in the school by their own. You know, now this is a reflection on us as parents. This is a reflection on us as a community. What example are we showing our children that they think or they see it fit that there's sections of our community that we can just put aside, put them in a drawer and close the drawer? We're going to take this call. Good afternoon, Genesis. Your name, please?
Hi, it's Pauline.
Yes, it's. What would you like to say?
What I'd like to say is the problem I find with black people is that they don't tend to think about others, and it's always self, really. They don't tend to think about, you know, people with disablement, anybody that's different. They don't really worry about them or concern themselves about them. And that's why we've got a problem throughout the whole system. You know, years ago, black people were pushing to be nurses. It was a way out. Yeah. But because it's not paying, like, big dollars, nobody doesn't want to do it. And so we're always reliant on, you know, the English or white people to look after us and to do things like that, because we're just not putting enough input into our race. You know, I just feel that, what can I say? I just think people need to start thinking about lesser people than themselves. And the people that have, like, the money, not just to use it to show off in big cars and big this and big that, and think of putting in something into the community for, you know, the diversities of the people, whether it be physical handicap or mental health. Okay. You know, we seem to have a stigma to anything that is different from what, you know, they call normal. You know, which is very sad, because, you know, there's a lot of people with mental health and they're in a world of their own. Nobody wants to know. And so in the end, some people, they just isolate themselves because of the fear, the stigma that's out there. You know, and
what, you know, have you got any suggestions for, on a community level now, for us to actually tackle or to start to address the problem within our own community? specifically concerning disabilities, you know?
Well, I think really we need to look deeper into ourselves and really find that love, because that's a word that's often used that has very little meaning. And I think if people had more love in their hearts, true love, you know, and really thought about things, they could help in many little ways. But it takes someone to start, and usually it takes a bit of finance, and that is where a lot of the problem is. The finance isn't there.
Okay, sis. So then, again, it seems like with a lot of our problems, it gets back down to money. But then, is it? I mean, because it doesn't cost nothing, all right? For, like how you heard me say, we have some of our children in mainstream education.
One sec.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
We have some of our children in mainstream education, all right, as disabled children, and they're being ignored by the rest of the children from our community. All right, the majority of them, that is white friends that they have, is white friends that come around their house and check them. You know, now if I'm wrong, I want London Town to correct me. But something like that, sis, that doesn't take money to correct.
No, that's what I'm saying. Again, it goes back to within and what you teach others. And because of the stigma, a lot of disabled people are kind of isolated, so people don't get used to mixing with them. And I find that white people, because a lot of them have more disabilities and they're used to seeing it, they can deal with it. You know, but it's a learning process.
Okay.
You know, and educating your child about disabilities and, you know, explaining to them that it's still a person, even though that they're different from you. You know, it's basically just like colour even. You know, we are all different. We come in all different shapes, sizes and colours. And it's learning to accept, you know, an acceptance. But we don't have that acceptance. You know, so to me it's like there needs to be a lot more learning going on, a lot more teaching, not just about gaining big money for, you know, material things. You know, I think we need to think a bit more of how we can contribute into our future by teaching our children and even teaching ourselves. You know, because a lot of us who are adults still need to learn, you know, simple things about acceptance and respect and empathy, and a lot of us, we just don't have that because there's too much self.
For real. Well, boy, sis, give me some kind of solution. You know, we've identified the problem that we have amongst ourselves. You know, now, what do you think? What does it mean now? We need some open debates, some community discussions.
I think there needs to be sort of like, even if it's just voluntary, because a lot of things, again, when it comes to black people, they don't like doing voluntary things, but maybe they need to start setting up groups, you know, finding where they can, like, rent a hall or something, you know, and I'm sure there's charities where they can get money for that, but it's like starting groups and sort of integrating within the community, you know, with able-bodied children as well as disabled children, you know, so that they get familiar with seeing that and not counting it as something different.
For real.
Because, I mean, I take my little girl to a play group where there's 2 disabled children, but she plays with them and she doesn't see anything different because she's that young.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. You've got to start from young so that they see it. They know there's something different, but they're not sure what, but they'll just play. Because that's the beauty of being a child. You don't know about prejudices of any form, you know?
Okay, sis. The whole of London Town heard what you had to say.
Okay, then.
All right?
Okay, take it easy.
Pick up for that call.
Okay, bye.
See you. Your London Town first call on disabilities, in our community. And, you know, don't be under no illusion. Not because you might look perfect, doesn't mean that you may not have a disability. There's disabilities as physical, and there's disabilities that is unseen. You know, for example, they would say mental illness, schizophrenia, all of these things are disabilities. Now, that is on another section because some of them, they need controlling or whatever, you know, on when it comes to like the invisible disability. But the physical disability of our children, you know, sometimes when you see these children driving past in the bus, take the time out and wave to them and see the response on their face. Just give them a wave. Good afternoon, you're in tune to Genesis.
Greetings, Commissioner. This is Shala again.
Yes, my brethren.
Yeah, I've been listening to what you're saying, and respect to what the sister said just before, because some of the things that she was saying, I agree with totally. I feel that there does need to be an awareness-raising process, because I was working with somebody with learning disabilities last year.
Yes.
And through the types of things that you were talking about in terms of colors and the just of play, we were able to get her to experience more of the world and be more fulfilled, you know. Now, when you said that many of our parents want their children to go into mainstream schools,
yes,
I can appreciate that.
Yes.
Although it does depend on the type of disability in inverted commas that it actually is, because if you've got a physical disability, there's no reason why you wouldn't be within a mainstream school, because a mainstream school, because it's a school and it's funded by the state, it has an obligation to make modifications so that it can accommodate all types of children, yeah?
Okay. Hold on. Sorry, brethren. I want you to repeat that again. Are you saying that if your child has a physical disability, for example, they're in a wheelchair, that the mainstream school has an obligation to make the school acceptable in terms of them getting around the school, etc.?
Yes, indeed, because a child is a child whether they're in a wheelchair or not. And a mainstream school, which is funded by the state, and the state which is there in order to cater to, because this is what the state says. The state says that it is there to make sure that it protects the people who live within the state, and that we agree by consent to allow the state to monitor and govern us on the basis that it does protect us and care for us. So when I say the state has an obligation, the school may not, the school or the governors may not perceive it as such, but nevertheless they do have that obligation, and therefore parents with children who are in wheelchairs should make sure that they campaign. They should come together and make sure that they campaign to ensure that the school does make those modifications to accommodate their children, rather than saying, oh, which are cognitive and which may affect their ability to perceive certain types of things or the rate at which they learn. In order to facilitate the process of their learning, it may actually be better for them to be in a different school at this moment in time. The whole objective should be that schools, the goal should be, in my opinion, that schools, mainstream schools, would be able to accommodate all types of children.
Yes.
However, we know as African people what mainstream schools have done to our children and the able-bodied children and the able-minded children that we're talking about, what they've done to them. They've made many of our children actually have learning disabilities when they started without them.
Yes.
So with our children who have learning disabilities already, I feel that they actually at this moment in time need separate schools, but not the kind of separate schools you have at the moment. They need separate schools which take into account and take into effect their spiritual and mental needs. They need special schools which are dedicated to stimulating different types of perception in those children. So special schools which, for example, will help the children learn through play. Special schools which will use visual and audio and different types of stimulation activities in order to get those children to learn. Now, in addition to that, in terms of what we can actually do now as a solution to the specific problem of the way in which we view these children and the way in which our children view these children, one of the things that we can do is that there are many African people, and when I say African, you know what I'm saying Africans from wherever we are, There are many African people who work in special schools, who work with these children. Now, I know that some of them are listening right now.
Bridget. You see, you make that statement there. Can I? Because I was going to say something on the back of what you said a few statements before, right? But I was going to say, a lot of especially the mainstream schools that do have disabled children in there, one of the concessions or one of the things that they have to do, the government would do, is provide X amount of hours care. So if, say it's someone in a wheelchair, they may employ someone to actually help them get around the school for, say, 16 hours a week. Now, I've found in my experience that these carers that are employed are usually white.
Right.
You know, and their perception of life is 1,000,000 miles away from that child.
You know that.
You know, so that in itself is creating, that's another problem, you know, where the child is being separated out of their community again, and down to the point where even their carer, you know, is a Caucasian. You know, now, what I wanted to ask is how comes our black people, because there's a lot of us unemployed, and these jobs are there, how comes we're not going into them kind of jobs? But now you said to me that you know schools where there are a lot.
Not schools, not mainstream schools, but special schools.
Yes,
you know, the special needs schools.
Okay.
There are a lot of black people there. A lot of black people who are not actually specifically teachers, but they're social workers or carers. And they work with children who have special needs. Now, for example, a black social worker has the ability to be able to place children with specific types of schools, specific types of people. So it needs an awareness at all levels, at all stages of the process. So when a child is introduced to a social worker, that social worker if that social worker is an African and the child is an African, the first priority of the social worker should be to locate another African to look after that child and to care for that child's needs, but also to locate an African who has an awareness of themselves.
And is that happening? Is that happening now?
No, sir, that's not happening. That's not happening. What's happening is precisely what you described. The young sister who we were looking after was eventually her parents were accused of rape. Well, not only that, her parents were accused of abusing her, which they actually didn't. The child was unable to communicate specifically what she meant. So she would say, for example, she would say daddy and mummy, and her sign language that she used, she used the same sign for daddy, mummy, and anybody, And the police were saying that, well, she was saying specifically that daddy did something to her. Well, she wasn't saying that because she was using the same sign to everybody, you know. And they had a court case, but eventually they took the child away, took away from Newham, where there was a whole heap of black people, and there were some black social workers, and there were some black carers too. And they took her all the way to Doncaster and put her out in a white area where she can't get no African food, she can't get no African music, no African anything, you know what I mean? And basically left her there. So we kept in contact with her, but it's difficult to keep in consistent contact when she's so far away. And that's happening to a whole heap of our children. Many of them are being taken away from our communities and put in strange areas where, when you consider the fact that they're already considered different, then they're put in an area where they're considered different on the basis of them being black as well, you know?
So within the system, I don't know whether you can, right, but I'm going to ask you, can you try and break down for me, what is the thinking behind taking one of our children out of their community and placing them somewhere where they'll stick out like a sore thumb? How do they come to this thinking?
Well, brethren, as far as I'm concerned, the whole of the educational system, in all of its aspects, because this is just another facet of the same system, and it's all about controlling, dominating, and breaking the spirit of African people. So when a child is taken away and put in an area far from everybody, it's because the spirit of that child will be hammered even more still. Because that child, simply because they have a disability can be perceived in a number of ways. Some disabled people don't like it when you perceive their disability as something which holds them back. Some will say that it's actually something which we've been born with, and it's part of our nature, and we can live with that just as we can live with having 2 legs, 2 arms, etc. You know. So I feel that the education system, which is dominated by the people that we know who dominate it, they don't want these children to come to the realization that they can still have that personal power which is within them and still live a full life as an African person, even though they have this thing which everybody else perceives as a disability, you know. So basically what the government is doing, and the schools are colluding in, and the social services are colluding in, and every official body is colluding in, is taking these children away to make sure that they never gain a knowledge of self and never come to that source of empowerment which is within them, which was given to them by the divine creator.
Okay, and now this is why I'm trying to highlight, what we're trying to highlight today is the disadvantage, not in terms, because I take on board what you said, and I personally, I've met disabled people as well that have said, listen, don't tell me that I'm disadvantaged. I was born like this, and I'm doing perfectly fine. But on the other, at the other end of the scale, you know, you talked about the little girl that she was making signs, couldn't speak coherently, and as a result, it was interpreted another way. Now, it seems that that's a big problem again with some of our disabled people in our community. If they cannot communicate coherently with us or get what they're trying to say across, it can be taken and interpreted in any number of ways.
Right.
You know, and so, Bridget, what can we do? I mean, if you're within that profession, as you said, you worked with someone that had special needs last year.
Yeah.
What do you see? What's the direction for us now on a community level regarding the disabled?
The direction for us is for us to have forums. First of all, the awareness-raising process. There are workers, African workers in the community right now who are listening, who can easily, after this show, I'll give you my number so that you can give it out to anybody who wants to call. We can organize community forums where we can have discussions and raise the issue of disability in our community. That's one thing. The second thing is that there are many governors who work in school, who are governors on boards of schools where there are disabled children. They too can ensure that they have forums and raise this as an issue. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, in addition to that, there is also the issue of self-awareness of the people who are carers and who are listening to this show, and not just in the community, because the knowledge of self would tell us quite clearly that we are all from the divine, and I don't want to go into religion too tough. I'm talking a spiritual thing, really. We're all from the divine. When you understand who you are as an African person, you understand that a disabled person, no matter what their disability, is still part of you. When you understand that, you are able then to connect with the source of love within you, and then you are able to deal with them as people and bring out from within them that source which empowers them. So basically, with this young sister last year, we were able, through the love that we were showing her, we were able to understand what she was saying. And we were able to communicate with her. It was those people who didn't want to give her that kind of love, who just said that this sister can't communicate, you know. But she could. It's just that you have to have the patience in order to understand.
For real. For real.
Now, at the level of the social services and the level of the schools, all the official bodies, they need to organize to raise the awareness of disabilities within the African community. Now, I specifically lay that charge at their hands because they're already in the profession. They're already doing something in the profession. They may feel isolated, but there are many of them, and if they come together, if they organize, if they call into shows like this, and they leave their numbers, I leave my numbers as well, we can definitely all get together and start something right now. We could start today to start raising the awareness of this particular issue in the community. In addition to that, there are many people who are dealing with African studies across the capital, There are many people who are dealing with African studies who are listening in, and they can make that part of their mission in order to educate the people who are educated in all the fine things we're learning about the ancient civilizations, and we're learning about spirituality and what we did and what we can do. We can also learn in the same context about the different types of people in our communities and their own needs, you know. So that would be my solution. I'm one of those educators who does educate people in African studies and that kind of thing. I haven't before now until I listened to this show. Thought of adding that dimension to it. But now that I've listened to this show, I make a commitment to add that dimension to whatever I do in an educative process. So I would ask other people to do the same on that basis.
Big up for that, Bridget. And after the show, phone us, all right?
I'll do that, you know.
Good.
All right then, blood. Respect to the show, one love, and just keep it going,
Yeah. Take
care, Bridget. Peace.
You hear that, London Town? From someone that's actually within the educational system, working with disadvantaged children, or children with disabilities, or children with learning difficulties. Boy, I want to hear some more of you. Parents with children with learning difficulties, give us a call. Tell us what you've had to go through. Tell us, did you have to fight to get your children into mainstream, or do they go to a special needs school? What are the facilities of that school? You know, that's one of the topics that we're covering today, London Town. But I think we really need to discuss it, you know. And, you know, if you all have a problem, because for us as well, you know, it's not that we don't mean to do it. It's just the way we've grown up in this particular society, you know, and it's put divisions between us. Now, this is one of the greatest divisions that's hardly ever brought to the forefront, not spoken about by us en masse. And as I said to you earlier on, we've got families, we've got single-parent families out there struggling, trying to bring up their one disabled child, maybe in a household of 4 or 5 children. Without the support of the community, can be very difficult. I'm going to let you all talk anyway. At the same time, we got the Bridget in the house. We got the mystery man in the house just chilling out with us, London Town, here. And again, he was down at the meeting on Thursday. It was Daddy Coolie, mystery man, myself, African scientist, met some of the general public, some of you all, the listeners. Well, I don't even going to call you all public anymore. Met some of the family, and we had some nice reasoning. You know, as you heard Daddy C say, this Thursday, same thing's happening again down at the Lewisham Way.
Once again, London Town, if you're just locked in, the live line number is 070-500 87426. Again, the number is 070-500 87426. Commissioner, I know that you've been talking about the handicap situation. What was the other topics? Disabled. Okay, disabled. They changed the word. Killer mosquitoes in Disney World.
We got the brother in New York that was arrested by the police and sodomized. I just gave you the paper. He was sodomized with a plunger, and then they put the plunger in his mouth, okay? And he's going to sue them for $55 million or thereabout. And at the same time, in the same week on this side of the river, we had a brother, Latima, let me see if I'm getting it correct, yep, who was actually beaten up by the police. This is here in England, I don't know where it's gone. But he was beaten up by the police, kicked in his head, etc., etc. In fact, he was killed, if I got it correct. And his people now are having to go through the same process after the judge has said, no, the police, you know, was perfectly correct. We find we have another family of ours that's going to have to go through the same legal process all over again and take it on board themselves just to get justice.
Okay. Not much difference going on around the world. It's like brutality's here and brutality's there. And in the States, the police force is more integrated than over here. So there's a little argument there in the integration of police forces over here and over there. Okay. All right, like I said earlier on, I got a book from one of our listeners, and it's got some of the islands on here. It's exploring certain of the other islands around the Caribbean and the West Indies, and this book was published in 1992. And because I didn't know about Anguilla, okay, Anguilla. There you go. You see about Anguilla, right? I was given this book, so I'm going to read out about just a paragraph, a page or so about Anguilla, giving you some general history and. You know, a little education about Anguilla. So for all those out there like me who never heard of Anguilla or knew nothing about Anguilla, take a listen to this. Okay.
No one can stop Genesis from play. All them a chat, we no watch where them all a say. Them can't stop Genesis from shine. So what study evil, try erase it from the mind. Well, this is Frisco Kids, so watch a Genesis. We love you from the heart. You don't know, you start and them can't stop you again. See it there? Pressure them.
Okay, Anguilla, the most northerly of the Leeward Islands and a British colony, is a serene, remote place. Its empty beaches are smooth with coral sand, white as snow. Although the steep blue hills of St. Martin's are visible from its south shore, Anguilla feels more like a raft floating alone in a vast sea than a fixed place in the... What's that word, Commissioner? Oh well, yeah, right. So today, it's strange to learn that once not. So today, it's strange to learn that once not a very long ago, the island's name was splashed across the world's headlines. The reason for this celebrity further defies comprehension. In 1969, Britain invaded the little Anguilla while the island rebelled. The story of the rebellion begins with another island state, St. Kitts. For administrative expediencies, Britain lumped its colonies, Anguilla and St. Kitts, together. Proximity, tenuous at that, was the most that Anguilla shared with the state to the south. St. Kitts is mountainous and lush, with a large and landless peasant society grown tense on sugar and slavery. Anguilla is flat, dry and calm, with a tiny population and a history coloured more by self-determination than slavery. At the time of the rebellion, St. Kitts and Anguilla detested each other. Kittinians like to think of Anguillas as hicks, calling them boo-boo, johnnies, and using them as the butt of moronic jokes. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts expressed his attitude towards Anguilla in saying, "I will put salt in their coffee, bones in their rice, and salt in their sugar." The Prime Minister denied Anguilla any real representation in their shared government and flogged the smaller islands' fragile economy relentlessly. Anguillians were both offended and oppressed by the Kittinians' superiority complex. In 1967, doing its best to lose its Caribbean colonies, in 1967, doing its best to lose its Caribbean colonial baggage, Britain tried to force Anguilla into a lasting union with the dreaded St. Kitts. Through the independent and de jure status of associated statehood, Anguilla, desperate to sever rather than strengthen its ties with the Kittians, rebelled. Protesters brandished Union Jacks and placards flaunting slogans like, "We don't want statehood, we want England." This peculiar rebel called was not the least of reasons why the world, and even most Anguillians, came to view the rebellion as something of a comic opera. Britain, still blind to Anguilla's plight, could not deter from its tidy solution. To its Caribbean clutter, in February 1967, the Associated States of St. Kitts Anguilla was signed into law. Anguillians marked the occasion by solemnly parading a black draped coffin labeled statehood around the island. Okay, so in 1967, the Associated States of St. Kitts and Anguilla was signed into law. So this means that in 1967, they was then joined, yes, Commissioner? Okay, the Anguillians marked this occasion by solemnly parading a coffin labeled statehood around the island. Tension mounted and the Anguillians rebelled, burnt down Government House, and Her Majesty's wardens fled. The rebels sent home the 12 policemen installed by the St. Kitts. Okay, so what happened when St. Kitts was put in charge of Anguilla, they set up a police force over there. St. Kitts responded by cutting off rebel Anguilla's mail, the island's only source of cash until very recently. Most men worked and lived at least part of the year off the island and sent earnings home to support their families. Still, Anguillians rallied together to survive. The isolation imposed by the rebellion gave the island a chance to learn how to govern itself. Rebel Anguilla enlisted a Harvard law professor to write a constitution and sent a representative to the United Nations, okay, going to the United Nations again, to plead its cause. Meanwhile, Britain, finally paying some attention, abated, misguided to Anguilla, adopted the domino theory and decided that Anguilla was mounting disturbance which would cause a Caribbean-wide effect. Actually, all the island was saying was that it wanted to remain a British colony. Red-faced Brits, heedless, Britain invaded Anguilla on March the 19th, 1969, with a battalion of 338, including Royal Marines, the Red Devil paratroopers. This elite fighting force was met at sandy ground by children bearing flowers and candy bars, by broad smiling parents singing "God Save the Queen," and by the usual contingent of goats. Not a shot was fired in the invasion, which Time magazine tagged Britain's Bay of Piglets. World reaction shamed the British government into rethinking its position on the Anguillan rebellion. Some troops were offered to stay on the island to help Anguillan build roads, to telephone systems and a long-needed pier. Britain resumed full responsibility for the islands, and the Anguillan is once again in its own right a colony of the British Commonwealth. Despite the quirks, the Anguillan rebellion became finally a people's serious and successful attempt of self-determination. Today, Anguilla has a new constitution and is governed by a ministerial system and a 7-member House of Assembly, including a chief minister. The local government handles almost all domestic affairs, while a British governor takes care of the civil service, police, judiciary, and foreign affairs. Anguillans are content with their status and don't anticipate independence in the near future. It's a fortunate arrangement for the islands governs itself, but relies on capital funding from the Commonwealth. Okay, we're going to leave it there. It has two main buildings over there. One is called the Wallblake House. It was built in 1787 of cut stone, hauled orderly across the island from the east end of Scrub Island. Burnt coral shells and molasses are mixed into a mortar. Clever carpenters, most likely native shipwright, carved its intricate woodwork. The interior of the cosy, staunch-looking structure is hung with invertebrate ceilings, their edges decorated with carved roping in true West Indian style. The Catholic Church now owns the house and garden, and next door sits a tiny modern chapel with walls of open stonework through which trade winds whistle into mass. A succession of magistrate, doctors, representatives and British Crown lived in Old Island House. This is the next one, Old Island House, 1800 in the valley. The 2-story wooden structure has been restored by the Comas of Rendezvous Bay and is now painted apple green. Old Island House is now an art gallery with a restaurant serving local dishes, bread baked in original brick ovens. Okay, so that's a little history on the island of Anguilla, their struggle to remain a British colony, their little in-island fighting with St. Kitts. There's much more on the island about their tourism, etc., etc. But I'd like to thank the listener that gave me that book and pointed out that page. So there's a little history of Anguilla for me and you, the masses that didn't know. And there's also some other islands in here, St. Montserrat, etc., etc. If you'd like to hear a bit of history about St. Montserrat, you can give us a call on 070-500 87426. We'll be happy to do that. If not, we also remember today's discussion, Commissioner.
Yeah, we're going to keep it rolling. Boy, Daddy Coolie just taught me something under town, eh? Well, you know about Genesis, you know.
Peace, peace, peace. This is J. Rule. Peace, this is J. Rule. The Damager, checking out Genesis, educating the young people today.
At the same time, listen, we're going to go into a quick another piece of reading as well on one of today's topics. Abner Louima made his claims from a hospital bed where he's in critical condition with a torn intestine, punctured colon, ruptured bladder, missing teeth, and severe bruising. The sick antics have prompted a massive political row in New York, with crime-busting Mayor Rudolph Giuliani ordering a public inquiry and the city's police force facing a $55 million lawsuit for damages. Mr. Louima was arrested when he tried to intervene in a scuffle outside the club Rendezvous nightclub in Brooklyn. It appears that he was then beaten twice in the car while being driven to the 70th Precinct police station. Once there, he was dragged into a lavatory where the officers used a toilet plunger. An ambulance which was called then had to wait 90 minutes for Mr. Louima to be carried out. By then, he had been charged with resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. What shocks the mayor is that despite Mr. Louima's screams, no officers went to his aid. Indeed, a young cop, Eric Torotsky, who supported the Haitian's allegation, is now under police protection. Not surprisingly, the crime has also stirred up racial tension, with 3,000 blacks angrily protesting outside the police station last week. For them, it is one crime too many, from a police force which has recently boasted of the fall in official complaints. Human rights activists say that this is due to the failure of the Civilian Complaint Review Board to take effective action. Their claims are supported by the fallout from the Louima case. Altogether, 4 officers have been charged, the station's commander and deputy have been transferred, and 8 other officers have been put on desk duty. Incredibly, of those 14, 10 have had previous complaints made against them. 5 have been the subject of more than one. Last year, over 80% of complaints against the police came from New York's minority communities. Since the furore, lawyers for 2 other Haitians have claimed that their clients have been beaten up by officers from that precinct. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Okay, even on this point here, we've got a young listener out there. He's linked up to the internet, okay, onto the website, and he would like to offer his services to Genesis as giving us information from around the world taken from the internet, and we want to but it does cost a certain little amount of money, so we're going to want to sort out something where we can actually pay his bill for that. But you know, it's like coincidence. He sent us a fax Thursday the 7th, Thursday the 4th of September, on the same thing that's in the paper there, okay? Abner, what's his name? How'd you say the name again?
Abner Louima.
Abner Louima. Okay, so this is like the update of what's going on over there. New York's Abner Louima, who says he was beaten and sodomized by police officers, was reunited with a daughter he hasn't seen since infancy. On the same day, it was confirmed that Johnny Cochran Jr. will be joining his legal team, okay? The officer at the center of the brutal case will be back at work next week on modified duty, the New York Times reported today. Officer Justin Volpe, I think that's how you say it, has been suspended without pay since he was charged with attacking Louima, who had been arrested outside a nightclub on August the 9th on a disorderly conduct. Civil service law bar the police department from suspending officers for more than 30 days. When his suspension expires next week, Volpe will be placed on modified duty without a gun or a badge, in a position where he will have no contact with the public. 2 police sources told the Times on conditions of anonymity, okay? So this source is told the Times, all right? This is a direct fax from the internet that was sent in by Jason V, okay? So this is an update, giving us the information update hotter than, okay? He was served Wednesday with departmental charges of striking Louima, shoving a foreign object into his rectum and mouth, using ethnic slurs and failing to report the incident to his commander. Volpe, who prosecutors call the main aggressor in the attack, is to be arraigned Monday on criminal charges including first-degree assault and aggravated sexual assault. 3 other officers facing criminal charges in the case were served with similar departmental charges on Tuesday. Cochrane visited Louima at Brooklyn Hospital Center on Wednesday, and attorney Brian Figueroa confirmed that the lawyer who successfully defended O.J. Simpson against murder charges would join Louima's legal team. Louima has filed a $55 million lawsuit against the city, with which his attorneys say they will amend to seek $465 million. Right. The facts is a bit unclear. Then a dozen clergy witnessed Louima's meeting with 6-year-old daughter Abner Samantha. It was the first time that the girl has seen since they immigrated from Haiti. Okay, from she was an infant. All right. Okay, so I think that's going to be a very vital addition to the information ban to Genesis, getting information, facts to us straight from the internet. Okay, so we're going to take this call. Good afternoon, you're tuned to Genesis. What's your name, where you're calling from?
Hello, I can't actually hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I'm having bad problems with the line. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, it's Sister S from Battersea.
Okay, Sister S.
All right, it's just to add to what you were talking about the brother that was sodomized in America.
Yes.
I actually read about that 2-3 weeks ago on the internet. Where I work, I get that. And it's actually on the CNN news because they've got an internet set up there. And one of the policemen actually goes out with a black woman who actually did this.
Right.
The brother. So I don't know if you all know that.
No, we don't, you see. Like I said, the internet seems to be the in
I
thing.
can't actually hear you.
Right, if you turn up your radio a little bit, because I think we've got a little problem with the mic on the actual phone itself.
Right, I can hear you now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that the internet would be a very valued addition to the Genesis information network, because it seems like this thing has the information way before even certain newspapers get it over here.
That's right. I mean, I was actually looking at something this week on African News Online, and they've actually got something to do with G7, these statements from Africa about the 7 world economies kind of coming together in Africa to take over Africa, basically.
Okay.
I've actually got it printed off. It's about, it's a G7 statement, Africa and global economy. Washington, following a proportion of statements entitled Confronting Global Economic and Financial Challenges, issued on June the 21st at the Denver Summit of 8 by a group of 7, i.e. G7, major industries, democracies, and European Union. The G7 nations are the United States, Japan, Germany, France, UK, Italy, and Canada, building an integrated global economy, which basically means that they're going to go into Africa. They had this meeting last year, this year, June the 22nd, and what they're actually doing, this is what to do with the New World Order, basically going into Africa and setting up an international financial institution for the changing world, and that's what they plan to do, basically, to go into Africa to build up the economic status and basically drive black people out, because they're calling it integrated, but it's not integrated.
Well, that's definitely don't sound integrated to me. And why should they decide to join together, the main European powers and America, and now, was it China you said?
Japan,
together to control Africa's economics, you know?
Exactly. And also there was been a statement by the Black Caucus over here. They were saying that basically it's going to be another Berlin situation where in the 1884, where there was they came together and they changed the whole structure of Africa, segregating off certain parts and building it, you know, like giving it flags and giving certain countries this country flag and that country flags, and you know, so I'm just a bit nervous at the moment. But
okay, don't worry, just Yeah.
You know, and they were given different country flags where they segregated off for economic wealth, and they put currencies in and stuff like that, and that's what they're planning to do for the 21st century. So I've actually got the information, and I can actually send it off to you.
Okay, yeah, well, yes, please, we'd like that information. Once again, any information is valuable to us, and our mailing address is 138 Lucian Way, Youth and Community Centre, okay, SE14 6PD.
Okay, thanks a lot for that.
And thank you very much for that information that you give us there.
All right, thank you.
And take care, peace.
Bye.
Bye. There you go, London Town. They're just talking about we getting back control of our own countries, and it's like there's nothing out there in Africa, etc., for us. And there's the 7 powers, European and American now. They decided themselves that they are going to take a controlling board and go over to Africa to sort out the economics there for the Africans, innit? That's what they're saying. But what Commissioner, yeah, that's what they're saying now. Over here and over in Africa, there's got to be no difference, okay? If we're going to set up, in certain terms of setting up a structural power base for us, okay? Now, the African communities over there must by now be able to look after and control their own destination. Of course. Of course. The African islands, the Nigerias and them places there should not need America and Japan and European countries to go over there and show them how to process their economic wealth.
London Town, listen, you lot have killed me, you've caged me. You see, what are we going back to Africa for? You see, internet's come, G7. If you know who the G7 are, the G7 was set up years ago, all right? G7 for the 7 European, the 7 major European countries, which I think includes England, Germany, France, maybe Italy, Belgium, and a couple of others. That's the G7 original. Over the years, they've invited in various countries to come in, but they've always held the main core. The balance of the vote or the balance of power always rests with them, even though they will invite other nations in. Did you hear what the sister said off the net? They're going into Africa, along with Japan, and who else? Italy. We're with the same people, but they're going into Africa. And America now, you know what I mean? So the New World Order is in it as well. They're going into Africa. They've made their plans. They want to go in and economically control it. Now, as you heard Daddy Coolie say, boy, Africa should by now be able to control its own thing without them coming in. It's, boy, the situation, you know? These people say that Africa owes them a huge debt, and it will always be in debt to them. The interest on their debt, in some cases, can be going on £1 million a day. In other places, the debt is increasing by the second, depending on how they feel towards you, you know, when they get up, whether they had a row with their woman or whether you're talking too much against their government. See? Now, we've seen it as an example in the West Indies, Jamaica, little bad boy island. You know, they made the what? How much is it? $55 to the pound? Something like that. You know what I mean? So this is why Africa finds itself in a situation today. It has the manpower, yes. It has the resources in the land. It has the technology, the capability in terms of, you know, the education that we have, the education that the indigenous African has. We have it all, London Town. The people are just holding us down financially, see? And giving certain little niggers out their guns to make war and run people off their land and commit a whole heap of atrocities. So for our part, and it's been said, you know, we had a discussion a few weeks ago on the Africa issue, going home or staying here. For our part, we've got to take on board more Africa. Even if we're not going, we must take it on board more and be more involved in what's happening out there. If you don't want to go, fine, but be warned. These people are going to take our last bastion in this earth away. Our last bastion, our stronghold, our motherland. They're coming after it now. History has a strange way of repeating itself. The invasion of Italy by Mussolini, the invasion of Ethiopia by Mussolini and his Italian henchmen, you know, all came from the fact that the Pope said God he said that land belongs to us. It's the promised land, and then people are heathens. You know, if you go back, you know, the old colonial masters, you know, check the history, man. Everyone had a piece. France controlled around the Congo area, I think, and along there was a French king named Leopold, King Leopold, who controlled, and again, it was economics. He wanted the rubber and the cocoa. And he was one of the first Europeans to go into Africa and take people's limbs off, children, chop off their arm, chop off their foot. Every single person that lived under that man's jurisdiction in Africa had a limb missing. Every one. That's King Leopold. Youngsters and college students, and even you on the net, see if you can get any information on him so that we can, you know, tell our young people and let them know, because these are the things they need to know. You also had the Belgian people in there doing their little nastiness. Let's take this call. Good afternoon, you're in tune to Jen. What's your name, please?
Hello, Commissioner. It's Dawn from Hackney. Just to tell you that Leopold was King of Belgium. He wasn't French.
Sorry, he was?
King of Belgium.
That's right. All right, King of Belgium.
Yeah.
Not France.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Nice one. You see, they're London town. Our listeners are on the ball. He was a Belgian king, not a French king. Now that would link up why Belgium is so famous for chocolate. Because their slave industry was heavily steeped in the manufacturing of cocoa and rubber plants, okay? You had others that controlled other parts of Africa. As we said, France, Belgium, England. Do you know Cecil Rhodes, all right? What they call Rhodesia. That area of land was the size of England, France, Germany, Belgium, and Italy put together. Just that piece of land that Rhodes took and called Rhodesia, with the full backing of, you know, what's her name, Elizabeth or Victoria, whichever one it was them time there. See, went in, took the land, and, you know, they couldn't believe it. The most land. Good afternoon, Genesis. Your name, please.
Hello, it's Sandra from Hackney.
Yes, Sister Sandra.
I just wanted you to educate me about Leopold, why he cut off their limbs. I don't exactly know why.
Sorry?
I don't exactly know why Leopold cut off the people's limbs and that.
Oh, you don't know?
Tell me the reason.
Okay, well...
That's all I rang for anyway.
Nice one, sis.
Okay then, bye.
Yeah. Leopold now, for some strange reason, and as I said, anyone out there that's on the net right now, get a bang and see what you can come up with. Leopold, for some strange reason, sort of thought that it was fitting, in order that the slaves wouldn't run away, see, take off a limb. And that way you'll have them always around him. So that's what he done. He used to chop off their limbs. Good afternoon, Genesis. Your name, please?
Hi, Commissioner. It's Diane.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. What would you like to say to London Town?
Well, what I'd like to say is that I understand what's going on, you know, the talk about Africa and so on.
Yes.
Right? I think we have the manpower, etc. But the problem with us is that once we get to a certain position in life, we tend to take care of our own and nobody else. It's like we become middle class and we think, well, we take care of our own business and the rest of the world can go to hell in a handbasket and we don't care. The other thing is that I look at what happened with Japan. When America dropped the atomic bomb on Japan at the end of the Second World War, afterwards they designed what was called the Marshall Plan to help Japan get itself back together. And the Japanese took the aid and built themselves into a position where they're one of the they're part of the G7 at this point, right? They're one of the most powerful countries in the world.
Okay.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, Africa has twice the population of the United States.
Yes.
We have very many resources, etc.
Yes.
But what tends to happen when our people come to power is that they line their own nest. Okay, that's what happened with the former president of Zaire, and he became one of the richest people in the world at his country's expense.
Overnight.
Overnight. And I'm not quite sure what it is about us as a race, but once they say that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
But people who come to power in Africa tend to just use their position to enrich themselves and impoverish their nation. Right, I understand that the industrialized world has taken advantage of Africa, and we have crippling external debt, etc. But I think if the industrialized nations really want to do anything for Africa, they could forgive the debt for a start because they can afford to do it. And they can stop this nonsense. The amount that they spend on foreign aid that everybody moans about is far less than they spend shipping arms to these countries. On a landmine tomorrow morning, but people in Angola are. And it is something, it's a little bit of a shame that we see these causes being fought by people who, for the most part, have nothing to do with it.
That's right.
And I think that it is time for us, as black people, to understand our worth as people and to start using our undoubted intelligence to put to constructive uses. I mean, I was brought up in Jamaica, and Jamaicans are renowned for being able to take apart any system that's in place.
Yes.
We're extremely intelligent people, but we tend to put our intelligence to destructive purposes. And I feel that if we harnessed our intelligence and our resources for constructive purposes, that we would be second to none in this world. And I mean, we'd give other people something to feel on a constructive basis, because we are among the most brilliant people in the world if we would just use our intelligence and our talents properly.
Okay, give us a first step then to even just using what we have, because if you're saying now that we have it all already.
Yeah, we do.
So what's the first step? Because as I said earlier on, we've had the discussion on the radio. You know, I'm a veteran of Let's Go Home. Daddy Coolie saying, no, we've got so much here. Our parents have done so much here. When they owe us here, we don't need to go nowhere. Be up here.
I agree with Daddy Coolie. I feel that we have accomplished something here, and if it's even to build ourselves up into a power here so that we can have some say. I mean, all right, if we're in a country that belongs to the G7, what happened to the black voice? I mean, there are enough of us here to make some political noise. And if we just let things go as they've been going from time immemorial, we'll only have ourselves to blame when things go wrong in Africa. Because if we sit here and think that what goes on in Africa is only going to go on in Africa, never reaches here up in our little England, we've got another thing coming. What if it goes to Africa and it works? What makes us think that whatever, you know, is used to destroy Africans in Africa, won't be used against blacks in the West? I mean, it's ridiculous for us to think that we're immune because we're over here. So I agree with Daddy Coolie. I mean, most of us who were born here know little or nothing about Africa, and we probably wouldn't survive over there anyhow. It's just a romantic notion. What we need to do is cope with the evil that we know and try and do something positive. I mean, whether you love Diane Abbott or you hate her, at least she's a voice. And I think that more of us should follow her lead, get involved with the community, start doing things for ourselves instead of sitting down and whinging. And we have got, like I have said to you before, black people have money, but we drink it, we wear it, we smoke it, and all we do is consume it. We don't bother to invest it, and then we sit down and we moan that we don't have any resources, which the next person who says that to me is going to be slapped. So it's about time that we started looking to ourselves and doing for ourselves. I mean, my commander gave us that example, which is why he was so honored, because although America withdrew support and Jamaica went through tremendous hardship during the Manly years, at least we learned some pride, we learned some self-respect, and we learned that we can cope without vast amounts of American aid.
Yeah, but Jamaica's not coping. Jamaica's in terms of black land masses in the world. Jamaica's got to be one of the worst representations out of all of them for us in terms of what's going on there now?
What's going on there now, but compare what's going on there now to what happened in Jamaica when Manny was in power, and though we were poor, at least we were trying to figure some way out of it and learning to use Jamaican resources and less reliance on imports. What happened when the other set came to power was we went right back to square one, and those things got easier materially. It's like you go down to Jamaica tomorrow morning and go into any supermarket and you'll see broccoli and this, that and the other thing that's not grown in Jamaica, and we don't want yam and we don't want dumpling and we don't want
things
that are grown at home. We want things from abroad, which are all very well, but who's going to pay for it? And we use up our foreign exchange to buy nonsense. And I'm just saying that if we would learn how not to emulate the tastes, the values, and the practices of people who are foreign to us, and learn instead to value and appreciate what we have as people, I feel that we would be far better off, and that we would discover just how much in terms of power. I mean, we've got the capacity, if we would use our brains to be educated, and yes, I respect our figures in sports and music and general entertainment, but I'm trying to say that's not a realistic avenue for most of our young people. And if we as parents would teach our young people to strive for education and strive to improve themselves, because they've got the brains, you said so yourself, they can quote any rap song backwards, right? So it's not lack of intelligence, we've got brains, but we just don't see where we can use our power constructively. And that is my hope as a black woman for the rest of my community, that we will, you know what I do with my time, so there's no use going over that with you, because you know what I do for my community. All I'm saying is that it is time that we as black people got our priorities straight and realize that there is plenty that we can do for ourselves, and to stop with the violence nonsense and killing each other, and start to employ our talents constructively. And that's what I have to say.
Okay, sis, big up. The whole of London town heard that, and I know they're taking it on board.
All right.
Yeah?
Take care.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Good afternoon. I'd like to say thank you for that call there. Also, we don't want to stray from the point, because today's subject today was on the disabilities and in the community. We also respect the input coming in from the listeners, but we don't want to drift too far from that. Maybe next week we might talk a bit more about it. You know what I mean? It links up. But anyway, we'll take this next call here. Good afternoon. You're true to Genesis. Turn down your radio a little bit. Good afternoon.
To start speaking again.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that we don't want to stray too far away from the major point, but as the Commissioner said, it is all linked up. And what I would like to say quite clearly is that we have to understand that the European, wherever he is or she is, in America, wherever, has more confidence than African people do at this moment in time, because they serve the gods of their ancestors. They basically, if you watched the whole thing, the whole media circus with Diana recently, you will have seen the Earl Spencer saying, our ancestors have always served the king. He said quite clearly that we respect our ancestors, we know who our ancestors are, and we know what they did, and we are doing the same thing today, basically. Yeah? Now, with that as a people, we have to remember that we are at war with the European. This is a war which is not over the past 400 years, but is over a period of 2,000 years. For those who have eyes to see, read the Bible, check the Bible, realize that the people in Canaan, who the Jews came to kick out of the Promised Land, were African people. Realize that those in Palestine and in the areas of Arabia where the Jews overran were African people. Realize that the Babylonians originally, before they were white people, were African people, and they were conquered by white people. The story of the war of the dissolution of African peoples is actually recorded in the Bible for you. You will also see that the God of the European, Jehovah, was the God which conquered and kicked out all the other gods of the peoples who the European conquered.
So he was the supreme God.
Say again?
So he ended up being the supreme God.
He's ended up being the God because of the fact that he's a conqueror.
Yeah.
He's ended up being able to say, I am the only God. I am the God you must worship.
Yeah.
You know? But Jehovah is not the supreme creator. Jehovah is just the God of the European. So it's important for us to realize this. Jehovah is a spiritual conception of the European people. This is why Jehovah is a warlike, angry, jealous, burning, destructive God. Because that is the spirit of the European. The spirit of the African is a different spirit. But we do not connect with that because we do not want to know the God of our ancestors. We do not want to know our people. When we say that we must connect with what's happening in Africa today, don't we realize that the only reason we are in this country is because of what happened in Africa 400, 500, 600, 2,000 years ago. It's because of what happened in Africa that we are here in the first place. So we have to understand that we are an African people. We have to understand that our traditions are alive in Africa today, but those traditions are struggling because they are not being given the energy that they need by having people focusing on them, using them, and empowering them to empower themselves. So let us just understand that African spirituality is not a kind of high-fluting, airy-fairy kind of thing. We're talking about a practical thing. The European, the G7, the New World Order is a cult. There are majors, there are executions, they are using their energy from their deity, which they call upon on a regular basis. They are using their ancestors. They are calling upon it in a magical or occult kind of way to enable them to defeat the African person. And we are not doing the same. Instead of that, we are calling upon their gods to help us. Now, why is their God going to help us when their God is their God? You know? So let us just understand this. Let's just understand that we need to empower ourselves. Let us understand that the source of empowerment is there in African traditional spirituality, because African traditional spirituality is about self-empowerment, knowledge of self, and the utilization of that self-empowerment in order to direct self and to claim back that which is ours, because Africa is ours, but in fact the planet is the African person. So let us just remember that, and let us make a commitment. In fact, I don't even want to say let us make a commitment. Let's just understand quite clearly. And I want to come off the impassioned tone and just to say, let's understand quite clearly that we are at war. The European has been winning this war over the past 2,000 years. They're conquering us. Africa is the last bastion. The Caribbean is also the last bastion of African statehood, of African self-determination that exists. If we don't support that, if we don't support ourselves in this community, if we don't realize that we're losing a war very badly at the moment,
we're going to be extinct very soon. That's right.
We're going to die. And I just want to make one comparison. In the 1930s, in the 1920s and 30s, the Jews in Germany, many of them had assimilated with the German people and looked like German people. The ones that didn't look like German people were telling those that looked like the German people, you better get out of here because soon it's going to come down on your head. Those that said, well, it's not going to happen to us. We're Germans. We're middle-class Germans. We have a position here. They need us now. We're part of this community. Look what happened to them. Look what happened to them, and let that be a lesson to African people, because it's going to happen to us too, unless we are self-determined, because it's only a self-determined people who can resist the type of bloodthirsty, ravening conquerors that the European has shown himself to be over the past 2,000 years.
Okay, Brethren, big up for that information.
Yeah, man.
Yeah? Enough respect. You know where I stand on it anyway.
Yeah, man, I know.
All right?
All right,
one love.
Peace.
Did you hear that, London town? You know, it's ours, it's home. Now, the reason why I say it does link up is, again, Mozambique just finished a war. How long was that war? 50, 60 years maybe, something like that. You know, if you go to Mozambique now, yeah, believe it, long war. Correct me again if you lot's out there on the net. I know some of you got the screen in front of you, radio on one side, and you're on the net. Get the information, let us know. But they just not too long come out of war, trying to restabilize the country and get back to normal. Mozambique was formerly colonized by the Portuguese. So you'll find a lot of people in Mozambique actually speak a form of Portuguese, even more than you'd find English-speaking Mozambicans. There's many, many children in Mozambique, again, limbs lost, you know, limbs taken off. Angola, you know, another place. The same, did you hear what the sister said about, what's her name that passed the other day? When Diana highlighted landmines, no one else done it. No one else was doing it. Everyone else had double the resources she had, double the credibility in terms of the world stage, and they never done nothing. Along comes this ordinary Joe Blogg sister from somewhere, book decides, yes, and again, yep, she had her own reasons, it was publicity for her, whatever, but she highlighted the plight of our children being blown up by landmines, losing limbs, losing their life. You know, now it's happening today. You've got also, I think it's Somalia, you know, maybe a third of the land in Somalia is still covered with landmines. Same things happening over there. You know, the list is endless. We can go on and on and on. You know, all of these children have got to go through a future with a major disability. With the resources in Africa, the infrastructure, because war's just finished, is little or nothing. You know, now over here, at least we have something called dial-a-ride. You know, we're disabled, and for all of you don't know, any parents out there that don't know, that have a disabled child or looking after a disabled partner or have a disabled person in the family, there is an organization or, community organization run in every borough called Dial-a-Ride, specifically for wheelchair-bound people, difficulty walking, blind people, etc. You can phone them, you get a card to register, and you can go anywhere around town at a very cheap rate. It's a door-to-door service. You know, if you've never heard of it, ask your town hall for more information, and they can give you that. It's extremely cheap for what it is, and it's door-to-door. And I think it's operating a 24-hour service. I may be wrong. If there's any Dial-a-Ride drivers out there, give us a bell on 0705 00874 26 and let us know. Now this again, we've got this here. You know, that is one of the things. Life here is hard for disabled, but you know, there's certain things that we can use to our advantage. Imagine over there, just come out of war, you've only got one leg, you haven't got no wheelchairs. Even if you did have, there's no roads for you to be able to use the wheelchair. Everyone else is just looking out for themselves, trying to survive. Who's looking out for you? You know how much, when you see them plastic limbs, a leg or an arm, you know how much them things cost? Pence, my brethren. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon. This is the High Priest here.
Yes, my brethren.
I must say I'm very, very green with envy of you, Daddy Coolie, and Mystery, because it's sounding so exciting out here that I wish I was in the studio as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
and Sister Slushy's here as well.
Oh, Sister Slushy.
Yeah.
I've got your tape ready for you, Sister Slushy, so when I see you, I'll give it to you, yeah?
Okay.
All right, listen, concerning disability, it's a very good thing that the landmine situation in Angola has been exposed. The only thing that I fear right now is that after the lady's death, that it will be, people will speak about it for a while, but it will soon die down because she's now out of the way, so to speak, there's about 10 to 12 million people in Angola, and there are about 10 to 12 landmines for each of those people.
That's right. So hold on, High Priest. Say that again, please.
There's about 10 to 12 million people in Angola, and there's about 10 to 12 million landmines for each and every one of them.
Okay. And that's today now, 1997.
Right now. So basically, on the land of Angola, anywhere you go, you're liable to be blown up. Except the places where landmines have already been blown up, So this means that whoever planted those landmines, and we all know that it's European people, wanted to kill every African on that landmass in Angola. Basically, that's the logic behind it, yeah? Now, disability in Africa historically has been very, there's been some negative aspects about it.
Very taboo.
Very, very taboo. And when people gave birth to disabled children, it was considered a curse, that there was some evil magic in the family. You know, all those sort of negative things. And so we usually discarded them in forests or even put them to death, yeah? So what happened was that they usually let them live till they were about 8 or 10 years old to see if they had any special mystical powers. Because in many cases, some of them often did. Because they weren't able to move around so much, they depended a lot on their brain and using their brain for, you know, mystical healing purposes, to be able to judge wisely in the community and so on and so forth.
So High Priest, sorry, before you carry on, tell me something now. When we talk about, all right, disability in Africa, putting aside war and the landmines, is the disabilities that come up the same as what is in this side of the world? For example, cerebral palsy, polio, you know, these kind of things. Is it the same kind of disabilities that you would find, or is it different?
We now have polio in Africa, but before the onset of the Europeans, it was virtually extinct, cerebral palsy is also a relatively new phenomena in Africa. However, we had our own disabilities through normal society, you know, through genetic mistakes, if you like. You know, we had blindness, we had leprosy, we had all sorts of pestilence that has visited Africa many times, and are still in Africa now. And like I said, we dealt with it in a very negative way in most cases, Because, and also, for example, if you're a man with a family, and we know there's a lot of poverty in Africa, and you became disabled, for example, how would you look after your family? Sometimes you were driven to commit suicide, or you just became an outcast in the community because you were not able to. And all these stigmas. But what's happening now is that we are opening our eyes to have more love and understanding of our people, to realize that people with a different physical makeup to us, with a different mental makeup to us, are also human beings with their own skills and particular positive contribution to society, if we're only able to take that time to understand the condition and nurture it. You see what I mean?
So it's the same, it's the identical problem to here. It's about taking the time.
Exactly. You see, it's about taking the time, because that is the only way healing can take place. You must take the time to nurture in order to heal. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And this thing needs to be spread and educated. The awareness, the education of care for the disabled needs to be spread across Africa more than it is now. Also, the will needs to come from the government. The government needs to have the will to educate the people about issues such as disability and so on and so forth. However, coming back to the point now of the G7, it's nothing new, as you yourself know, Commissioner. We may read the latest bulletin in the newspaper about how Europeans are trying to dominate Africa, but it's nothing new. It is something that is on the agenda daily, hourly, and by each second. It's only that a recent bulletin comes up and we get all excited about it,
Okay.
Now, what happens is that Marcus Garvey said that the best way to fight an alien culture is to live your own. Now, at the end of colonialism, and you talked about King Leopold of Belgium, that was only one of the atrocities that was being committed in Africa. Basically, these Africans were forced to work in the rubber plantations, and if they did not produce enough rubber, their foot would be cut off, or their hand would be cut off, or they'd be hanged, or murdered, or whatever. It happened right across Africa under colonialism. And we know that colonialism started from the Berlin Treaty, and the G7 summit is simply another Berlin Treaty.
That's right.
And like I said, they do this all the time. We're constantly on the agenda. Now, what we as African people need to realize is this. After colonialism, where people like Nkrumah and others fought to get rid of the colonial powers, unfortunately what happened was that they simply stepped into the same process of running things. They copied exactly the accounting system, the legal system, the economic system,
the health system,
the health system, the education system. They simply copied it and left it completely intact. There was no changes to these systems whatsoever. So there was no will to look within ourselves as African people to say,
African society, High Priest.
Yes,
see, all right, okay. All I'm getting from the conversation here, right, is that it's the same over there as it is here.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what are we? So now the people over here. Now let me get an understanding. See the people them over here now that say to go back to Africa. Yeah.
Yes.
Are we supposed to be going back to Africa now to fight the system to bring the battle back to Africa to throw the colonialism out of Africa?
Yes, Daddy Coolie. That's what.
Right. That's what. Okay. All right then. So all right. So then we're setting up a revolutionary force to go over to Africa then. Yeah.
No, not that. No? Setting up a revolution.
So what about the Africans that are actually in Africa now?
Sorry?
What about the Africans who are actually in Africa now? Well, you know, like we say here, we got to sort out our home base here.
This is where I was coming to, bro.
Right.
This is where I was coming to. What I was saying is that the situation in Jamaica, Trinidad, Bronx, New York, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Ghana, Nigeria, Angola is exactly the same. This is the condition of African people around the world, and that is why we must unite. Just as you educate yourselves here to organize your community here, we in Africa must educate ourselves culturally, I must add, to organize ourselves in Africa. The African Americans must organize themselves culturally in America so that we can begin to link up wherever we are, to trade with each other, to share political issues with each other. You have pounds. Pounds is not calm in Africa. You can send us pounds. We can send you different things. Americans can send us dollars.
Okay.
You understand what
I understand what you're saying now. You see, because what's happening, see, I don't know, people out there might listen or catch a little conflict here. It's like there's a wrongness in staying here and a wrongness in going, you know what I mean? Whereas each must decide their own decision what they want to do. I know what they want to do, and in the end of the day, the unification will be coming when we respect each other's wishes in what they want to do. Because there's no point us going back to Africa if Africa is just as colonialized as over here.
Listen to me, my brother. Daddy Coolie, you see me? I agree with exactly what you're saying, because at the end of the day, logically, there will be those who stay here, and there will be those who will want to leave here and go to Africa. And also in Africa, there will be those who want to leave Africa to come over here because they think over here is better, and there will be those who want to stay in Africa. You understand what I say?
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm saying is that wherever we are, me love you, Daddy Coolie, because me and you is one, yeah? So wherever we are, we must organize to help and support each other. But on my side, better still if we all did decide to go to Africa. But me not force nobody to do that. If you want to stay here, I still want to work with you to develop the black community over here and to develop the black community in Africa. Because Africa can't be powerful if you are not powerful, and you cannot be powerful over here if Africa is not powerful. You understand?
Yeah.
And one of the purposes, one of the positive purposes I see that can only come from slavery, if anything positive is going to come from slavery, is that the Creator has spread us around the world so that we can rise up and use our positions around the world to take control of the world, so that as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end, and we shall save and glorify this world that the Creator has created for us.
Okay, Bridget, big up for that call there. The whole London town heard it, see?
Alright then.
Take care.
One love.
London town, you heard that. You will make your own decision. It's the opinions being put out. It's for you to decide. At the same time, because I've gone to Africa and seen a lot of suffering out there, seen a lot of, there's parts of Africa where begging is just madness, you know, and it does physically shock you when you see it, you know. But again, well, I ain't even going to reiterate where I stand on it, because you all know by now. See, to me, boy, before you can help anyone else, you got to help yourself, and there's no place like home. See? Good afternoon, caller.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yes. What's your name, please?
My name is Michael.
What would you like to say, brother Michael?
Yeah, I'd like to find out a bit more about the incident with the police. Was another? Did I hear correctly? Was another brother murdered in police custody?
Hold on a sec.
I just want to get the fullness of the information.
Okay. Yes. All right. The brother's name was Shija Lapite, and he was unlawfully killed during a brutal arrest. She wants the policeman responsible charged with murder.
Was the policeman charged with murder?
No, they wasn't, but she wants them charged with murder.
Who's the wife?
In fact, yeah, I'm looking at the details now. He was actually, this happened in 1994, all right? I'm going to read it to you, Mikey.
Yeah, run it through, man.
A call echoed by campaigners followed the Crown Prosecution Service's admission at the High Court that there was a flaw in a decision not to prosecute PC's Paul Wright and Andrew McCallum. Mr. Lapita's family had requested a judicial review of their decision, which followed an inquest jury's unlawful killing verdict in January '96. The Police Complaints Authority, which concluded that no disciplinary action was required against the officers, will also reconsider the case following the historic U-turn. Olamide Jones, Mr. Lapito's widow, said, "I am pleased with the decision today, but the fight is not over yet. I hope the police authorities will not continue to protect those responsible for my husband's death, and that the CPS will take this opportunity to prosecute the officers. I will never give up my fight until justice is done and those responsible for my husband's death are prosecuted for murder." Mr. Lapita, a 32-year-old father of two, died in December '94, 30 minutes after being stopped by plainclothes cops searching for drugs. They said he was acting suspiciously. Post-mortems found up to 50 separate injuries to his body and concluded that death was the result of asphyxia caused by a neck hold which fractured the bones in his larynx, you know, in his throat.
Yeah, I understand that. One question I want to ask is,
yes,
is it true? Did I hear one sister say it correctly that one of them was going out is dating a black woman?
No, this was a case in America. Yeah, they arrested a man and they sodomized him with a plunger, beat him up and then stuck it in his mouth. And as a result, 14 of the officers in the station was either moved or put somewhere else. One has actually been charged with it. A sister phoned up and said, of them officers, one of them was actually going out with a black woman.
But is this factual information? Is this for certain?
Yeah, it's factual.
It's factual?
Yes.
Yeah, but how does this woman feel knowing that she's going to have a man like that, though?
Well, remember, Marky, you know, there was a case even here, you know, of one of these tabloids, all right, interviewed a BMP boy, and he was going out with a black girl.
I'm not surprised. That's what I'm saying to you. The point I want to make on this thing here, because like I said, remember some time ago we were talking about the race mixing thing.
Yes.
Right. I was even watching a show earlier on about a man who's got racist views and he's married to a black woman. Now they used to complain about how I hear some women complain about how black men are married to white women who have racist opinions. I'm not saying that there ain't those out there who have those kinds of opinions. But what I'm seeing now is that there seems to be a big trend in black women going towards white guys now. You understand? And they don't seem to care whether the guy has anything against black men or not. You understand? So I'm not. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I'll say this again: prove me wrong, right? Any man or woman, right? Why is it you keep on seeing black women? And why is you keeping hearing that BNP, National Front, all these people who are staunch supporters of their racist supremacy, right? Pardon, right? Have black women on the side.
They're going out with black girls.
They're going out with black girls. It's been in newspapers. The black press have done several items on it. Right? So you can't tell me that they don't look funny, because it makes you look as if a lot of these women have no sense of race or culture, and they don't have no sense of their people.
Yeah, hello, Mikey. This is Lady Slushy.
Hello.
All I've got to say about that is that they just they don't know where they stand. They don't know themselves. You know what I mean? As far as they're concerned, because there's no way that I'd be in a relationship and know that the man of different breeding to me don't like my race, and I'm gonna stay with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see what
they don't like black people themselves. They wish they were white, but they better know they could never change.
Yeah,
so they better know.
Let me explain a simple reality. You got a certain man out there who don't mind black women for to use a sexual toilet, all right? But they got a problem with black men. You understand? And that's the problem. That's the problem I have with that kind of situation.
Their problem with black men is they know what the black man can give. Them can't give it. That's simple.
Fair enough. But I want to know furthermore is this. See with the situation with a lot of these black women. I want to know when do they ever sit down and consider what they're doing to the fullness of what they're doing? Because I'm sure there's some of them who know what they're doing and still go down that road. I'm sure of that, because not everybody can go into that relationship and be blind to the situations around them. You understand my point?
They're not blind. They just decide that's what they want. Simple. They're not blind. They're not deaf. They're not stupid. They know and see what we've been under for years. As a youth growing up, you know what you went under. That's the life they choose. They were educated so bad, as certain people do say, that they do hate their own colour.
Yeah, point taken. May I speak to Commissioner? Thanks for speaking to reason with me on that point there.
Okay then, thank you.
Can I speak to Commissioner a moment?
Yes, Precinct.
Yeah, Commissioner. Could I ask you something?
Yeah.
What was the other thing about this thing about the G7 moving into Africa? What was this about?
Our sister called us information off of the net. The G7, along with America, are making an economic plan to go into Africa, large scale, big time, and just run things, control it the way I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, economically. Daddy Coolie's telling me economically, but you know. The history of them people, the G7 are the people that sent in the World Health Organization into...
We know to infect the people.
Okay.
We know about them thing there already.
Okay. So, you know, they obviously they got, as you know, Mikey, they got plans to take the land away from us.
Yeah, but another thing people seem to forget is that it's not just Africa that is by rights black people's. There's other lands in the world that belong to us, but because we haven't made claim to them, that doesn't make them no less ours.
For real.
Yeah, because a lot of land, it's not just the African continent that belongs to our people.
Yes.
There's other lands in the world that belong to our people. You understand?
So it's time for us now. It's time then for us to what? Start getting more nationalistic.
One point I'm going to make on please, one moment. One reality. One point I'm going to make is that you know, we're talking about peace and we got to have some degree of unity in our community.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent, but you have to remember this: we're not living peacetime, right? So we're gonna be at war to a certain degree, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to be. There's gonna be wars with our own people because there's gonna be some of us, like I said last time, who want to see us in a position of servitude forever. You understand? They want to see us in a position of empowerment for ourselves.
For real.
Right, and for us to stand up and define ourselves by our own means.
Yes.
So in our own ways. You understand? And it's to say that black people, because we're talking about this thing about Africa. Some things in African culture, due to the fact what's happened to black people in the diaspora, needs itself to be reformed. Because what it does, it opens doors for our own enemies of our people to come back in. You understand my point?
Oh, yes, Bridget, clearly, you know, and that's a situation that we're going to have to really deal with, address. We have to start, when we start setting up whatever we do, we're going to have to monitor ourselves, vet ourselves, and
we're going to have to question. We also have to question certain traditions, because unfortunately they might not be. There might be one time some of the traditions might have been good at one point, but right now, due to the situation and circumstances that people are in, they may not be able to uphold certain practices. Now, I'm not saying we should reject the whole thing. No, I'm just saying that certain things need to be reformed and carefully looked at. You understand, for the betterment of the people, because, like I said, unfortunately, we're going to talk about uniting our community, right? But what we got to look at is, unfortunately, we might have to
throw some of them out.
Unfortunately, yes, because what some people want to do is promote things like prostitution and all them kind of things in the community. You understand? Promote drug addiction and all them kind of things. We got to find means of moving outside.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Lady Slushy again, right?
Yeah.
As I say, right, this time here is a test for everybody. Not everybody's going to reach where them think them are going to reach, you know. Not everybody's going to reach. So there is evil both in black and white. That is why there is going to be plenty black man that we're going to have to dash out, of course. Because at the end of the day, black man and black woman, because at the end of the day,
they're the same. I just want to make a brief point. Right, I know there's some very negative brothers out there, but you have to remember there's also a lot of negative sisters out there as well.
I wasn't just saying the brothers, I was saying the sisters as well. There is a lot, and at the end of the day, it's for us to know our own, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, as I always say to certain people, you could be walking with 5 brethren, you know, and that one is just there to put you down, and when you realize he's always stepping on your toe and you can't understand why, and when you get to sit down and you think, boy, he must have been put there for a reason. It's not just a white man you got to watch your own black man as well, and sister. You know what I mean? So, and that's the only way we're going to get through. You can't go halfway and expect one person to do it, because everybody says them. It's not only them, it's we. You know what I mean? We might not have the money, but we can help. You know what I mean? As certain man said, we would do voluntarily for the white man, but we're not going to do it for our own.
Yeah, that's a problem among our community.
So it ain't just the white man that we have to watch. It ain't no face. It ain't no face again. It's what's in their heart, and a lot of them have the devil heart.
Yeah.
Those are the same one that would let them G7 go down in Africa and run things, so that when we get there, we can't do a thing.
Yeah, but you have to remember, some of them are also descendants of people. It's some of the Africans who helped sell us out as well.
Yes, I don't know that. Black man
I'm not preaching division, it's just a fact.
Black man is their own downfall.
In a way, yes, and in another way, no. Because I'm saying there's a number of situations that cause us to fall. But, yeah, you know...
Yeah, but the majority of it is that we sold out.
No.
And yes, it is, because we're still selling out today. We're here begging for them to give us our royalties to take back home, and they're around the next corner selling it out.
First and foremost, I'm not looking for no royalties from anybody. I just want to ask, because the black community itself is its own resource, right? A lot of the black people, a lot of the youth and the people in the black community can set about and build our own way around things.
Of course they can do it, because we did it the first. We were the first to do it, so we can do it and do it better.
What the problem is some people don't want to do that. Some people want to live a certain kind of a lifestyle that is hazardous.
No, they want people like us to prepare the way, and they come and mash up everything. You know, they want it, but they want to live the life. They don't want to put their money or none of their hard work or the sweat of their brow. They want us to do it, and then they come and live the life. Yeah, you know, but it can't go like that. Everybody has to mock in.
Yes, I agree. But the point I'm making is this, right? As well as everyone knows, the Europeans and Arabs taking part in the slave and help bringing us down. Our own African quote-unquote brothers help do it as well.
Of course.
So even though some of us are going back to the ancestral land, a lot of us got to check ourselves and check them out as well, because
a lot of them are brainwashed. A lot of us that are here are brainwashed.
Some of them know what they did, and some of them...
Yeah, but they think they would live a higher standard in life. But how much of them are around today? None.
Yeah, but hear this. You got some people. Like I said, you got some man out in Africa now. We're selling out the land and the people to the, like you just said already, to the same people that came and colonized the land in the first place.
But at the end of the day, you know, I don't even know why we're worrying, because they can sell, but them can't move it. Go nowhere. They can't move it. They cannot move it. And at the end of the day, when the Almighty come, they only got their time. Let them carry on. There's nothing they can do. They cannot beat him. Yeah, because at the end of the day, everybody, I'm not cutting you, everybody cannot reach that place, you know. We've got to find the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And boy, there's more good, there's more bad and indifferent than there is good. That is why the fight is still there. Yeah, but the question I was going to make a point to you is this. Did you hear about how a white man married an African princess? Did you hear about that? Yeah. You heard about that. Now, what do you think of that? In comparison to our situation and the monarchy here. That is not helping. That ain't. What is that? What are they doing? Liquidizing our race. That's all they're doing. They're liquidizing our race. Yeah, they're giving English school teachers positions of chieftain, right? In African groups. Now, I'm wondering what on earth is going on. Well, you see, the way that I see it now, right? Because there is a lot. But they want to see if we're in the Western world. In the Western world. Yeah, but what I'm saying, right? We could do them things there. Yeah, but what I'm saying, right? At the end of the day, right, there is a lot of our brothers and sisters that lived in Africa for a amount of good years, and if you look around, you can see them. They have got money. They have just come from Africa. Why are they leaving Africa? To come and spend their money down here. Because they want to live like Europeans, and it can't work. You know what I mean? We are black people. We're not supposed to follow them. They're supposed to follow us. We're supposed to set the trend. True. You know what I mean? We're supposed to set that trend, not them. They follow everything we do. If that was the case, these people say they believe in that, they believe in that. If they were the first, why have they tried to kill us out in so much and so many ways? Point taken, but why I look on it? I'm just saying, I've seen certain things, and when I'm looking on it now, is that the black community, right? We got to clean out a lot of rubbish, because there's a lot of people. They need to check themselves. Unnecessary problems in the community. They need to check themselves. Half the problems could be resolved if, right, the black community got his act together. But how many are willing to do so? They're not. As I said, the minority. Hold on. So we're going to wait till another person dies in a racial incident like Stephen Lawrence. No, you see, this is how the black people. So hold on. We always waiting for a disaster to happen before we come together. But you see, at the end of the day, no disrespect, right? But you know. Sometimes they go and trash their own neighborhood. Yes, and it still brings us down some more. They can't even buy a loaf of bread. You understand? And that's a stupidity. That's not fair. And sometimes wantonness for violence like that don't help nobody. It don't get nowhere, because it's just mindless and it ain't directed or controlled. They're looking at a way of a survival, but that man that they know, and they've gone in his yard and take out his thing, was trying to survive the same way he's trying to survive. I agree. And I think that's well out of order and wrong. You understand? But I'm just saying, a lot of, like, when these situations occur and some of our own people react like that, they do it wrongly. You understand? They're going to trash their own neighborhood, rob from their own black brother and sister's yard, and that can't work. That can't work, because that's not helping nobody. You understand? And I'm not saying that sometimes they go and trash the wrong people's neighborhood, and also they make war with their own people too much. Yeah, they do. But that's the way the system planned it, you know, and a lot of them don't know that. For how long have we been in the Western Hemisphere? I'm saying we're supposed to be able to know what kind of people we're up against after 400 years. But you mean to tell me that we still don't understand what kind of man we're dealing with? We know, but you see what it is, they're frightened. They're frightened. Don't you see how certain black people run when it comes to the police? And the police ain't nothing, no superior than what we are, than people in black clothes. With a name. And some of the times they're not wrong. You know what I mean? Oh, rare. Don't talk too loud. Don't give a shit, basically. But what I'm saying is that... they've got strength for their own, but they don't have strength for what they're supposed to have strength for. Yes, true. Serious thing. Because a lot of them, like I said, only got strength to draw their own people's blood. Yeah.
And that some people have any insatiable appetite to do wrong to their own people.
But that's the way the system is.
When it comes up against somebody who can deal with the situation and deal with the case,
they kill them off.
All of a sudden they
want to kill them
their
off.
Backbone.
Or that person just disappears.
They just disappear.
Right.
You understand?
That's the way the system planned it.
That's a weak attitude.
Well, okay. Thanks for your views and your comments. We have to wind it down now. So this is Lady Slushy. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Later, Mikey. Nice one. Yes, London Town. At the same time, you know, I want you all to... What happened to our calls on living with disabilities? How comes we haven't had no parents of children with disabilities phoning in? You know, come in, phone in, share your experience. You know, because there's a lot of London Town out there that don't know. You know, they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's about to live with a child or an adult that has a disability. If you're a carer out there, we're coming to the last mile of the way in the show. You know, enlighten us. Let us know some of the everyday problems, obstacles that you will have to face. You know, again, the children that go to school. I know you all are out there. You go to school and the school has a disabled child or several disabled children in the school. Do you ignore them? Do you make a point of going out of your way to talk to them? Good afternoon, caller. You're in tune to Genesis.
Is it on there?
Yes, it is.
No, I want it off there. It's okay.
Okay, I'll give you another number when you come off the air, all right?
Yes, okay, thanks. Bye.
0956 596 739. Yeah? Yes, Daddy Coolie. 0956 596 739. That's off air if you want to say something. At the same time, I knew it. You know, disabilities is so taboo in this black community. Look at the response we've got, eh? No one really wants to talk about it. Too tough. Why? Huh? How can we have sections of our community that we are choosing to ignore? And it's sections of the community that need more help, more support, more love, more input from the whole community. You know, it can enhance the quality of life. We're talking about ours, you know. You heard the brother phone and tell us about disability in Africa and how they used to deal with it and how they've changed now and they're taking a lot more time just to understand. And that is one of the hardest things, especially in disabilities that affect your speech, that, you know, have a speech impediment or affect your coordination, you know, your nervous system, your spinal system. These disabilities that have these kind of aspects around them can make it very difficult for the individual to communicate, to try and get across what they're saying. You know, how comes we're not supporting our own? It's a sad thing, you know, London Town. And you will amaze me. If I was here talking about a gun and them thing, the phone will be popping off. If we was talking about whatever else, dance or whatever, phone will be popping off. Disabilities in our community. You know, what about our people? Again, we talked about invisible, for want of a better word, disabilities. You know, outwardly you look physically healthy and everything, but you know, some they describe it as mental illness. Some have. Do you know there's a thing called autism? Autism, I think, as a disability. You know, and in schools, I think it's autism. Okay, sorry, the live link 0705 00 874 26. That's the live link number. I know we could kind of wait here and forgot to give it out. There was a while back, I don't know if you all saw this on television, a young child, black child, about 11 years old, and he was autistic, I think that's the word, yeah? And he could draw things backwards, all right? And they took him down to St. Paul's Cathedral, and he done a perfect scaled-down model, all right, perfect, of St. Paul's Cathedral. But he was autistic, he couldn't read, or he had the most difficulties at school. Now, it took them quite a while to even recognize that this child had this disability. because they couldn't understand why he wasn't learning. How comes he was, you know, he wasn't going nowhere? And it's only when they gave him a pencil and said to him, draw, that they saw. You know, then after that they held him as like a mini genius, and you know, for the world of technical drawing, he was like the bee's knees. Young child. You know, but it was through a disability. Now imagine if they didn't discover that. Now he'd still be struggling. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioner. It's High Priest again.
Yes, Bridget.
Yes, I do know about that story, and I think his name was Stephen Wiltshire or something like that.
Okay.
And there was also a fund for him, which I contributed to in that time, you know.
Okay. Do you know what's happened to him now? Do you know what's his whereabouts now? Did he graduate and go on to better things?
Well, what I know is that he was taken up by a white family, a white woman in particular, so he left his black family home in order that the white woman would so-called better his life. And what happened then was that his art was printed and sold to raise money. I'm not sure who most of the money went to, and that's basically they've controlled his life now. But his special skill is what I was talking about earlier on, where if you took time to understand disabled people, they have their own special skills which they can contribute positively to the community. You know what I mean? One of the invisible disabilities that you forgot to mention was also sickle cell anemia. As you know, a very healthy-looking person, like anybody out there in the community, may suddenly have a crisis, a very severe, painful crisis, and that's also a very disabling disease that we have to understand as well.
Sickle cell, Well, as I said at the beginning of the show, my first job, the 16 up, it was in fact working in the Belgrave Children's Hospital. Specifically, we was designed, or the post was created because of sickle cell.
Right.
You know, so that was like that was my first introduction to even disabilities in our community.
Right. Now the mental disability, so-called, you see, now that we have to also really look at very carefully, because some of these things that they call us, we are not.
That's right.
And usually there's a spiritual reason behind these things.
Yes.
And again, if we took time to heal the person spiritually as well as physically, we can make these people positive contributors to our community. After all, my brother, what is normal, what is abnormal? And what is sane and what is insanity? You understand? All these are relative, depending on the type of community that you live in. We live in a racist community, so when an African woman is told that her child has passed on, and she wails and thrashes herself all over the floor, it is said that she is mental.
That's true.
And that's not the case at all. That is her own cultural way of expressing her grief. You understand what I mean? So anyway, that's my contribution.
Big up, Reggie.
Take care.
Okay. And yes, London Town, that is a fact, you know. Again, many years ago, there was a documentary compiled on mental health in the black community. And it was a time when many of our people, if you didn't go to the police station, you were sectioned. We're going to get back to it. Good afternoon, caller. Your name, please?
Hello, my name's Bola.
Yes, Bridget.
Right, I want to speak, because I've been listening into your show, and I know you're speaking about disabilities. I'm really kind of talking about a disability which we all kind of have, which is spiritual.
Okay.
And also, we have no language which we can all talk. Do you see what I mean? So, from the form of the disability, because I know you was talking more about, you had a long debate on Africa and how the people are over there and stuff like that. I'm looking at it from the point of view of, we've been colonized, that I'm talking about all of us, and we're still colonized in a sense that we have no language which we could speak, and the language which we do speak is not our own language. Do you see what I mean? So it's a point of view where the European is always in our minds. So when we communicate, it could be three people speaking together in secret about something which is to forward the race, but it's still there, because the way in which we communicate, the words which we use, even the tonations which we use are all European. You see what I mean? And
yeah, Bridget, yes, I agree with that, right? But at the same time, we even now are at a slight advantage over the disabled within our community. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
even though we are disadvantaged as well.
Right.
You know, and like what I was trying to get across to, like, you know, the whole of the family is why are we ignoring our disabled? How comes we're not taking care of them? How comes we're not embracing families that, you know, may have a disabled occupant in the household? How comes we're not giving them the support?
Well, as I said, that's something to do with the spiritual.
Okay.
See, the second point was more to do with everybody. The other point is also to do with everyone, but it's the spiritual, whereby it's all about self in this society in which we live. It's all about what I can get, what you can get for yourself. You see what I mean? So don't look to someone else to provide it for you, do it for yourself, and at the same time, don't help anyone else. That's the situation which we're living in this particular country, and most of the westernized countries.
And as a result of that, we're making our own suffer.
Well, we're making ourselves suffer. Yeah, very true, very true. Because we've kind of left that spiritual vibe of helping, you know, your fellow person, and we've gone on to the vibe of help yourself.
Yes.
And that's playing into the European man's hand, because that's what he's about. You understand what I'm saying?
Real.
As in the sense of we're on most people, you know, is on a money tip. It's about furthering yourself financially, and we need to get away from that money tip in order to further ourselves, because the money which is of any value has a European man's face on it. You understand what I'm saying? Anyone with anyone black on it has no value. It's worth 100 of beers, if you understand what I'm saying, the ratio, the comparison. So from that, we must know that if we're on a money tip, they'll always be able to buy us. So no matter what our price, they'll always be able to buy us. So we've got to get away from that and get back to more the spiritual vibe, which will enable us. Because in the sense that right now, taking it wider, Africa is disabled in the sense that we've been raped, pillaged, and all the other things have been taken from us. But what we still have is the people. The same people who came there and built Europe, built America, built the rest of the Western world, is the same people that if we decided to build our civilization, whichever way we chose, we could do. But at the same time, as someone has said previously, people want to just, you know, live a certain standard of life, which is detrimental to the rest of the people, because for someone to get through, it costs the lives of like 1,000 people. When you see one Michael Jackson, it's 1 million black people who put him there.
Yes.
You see what I mean? When you see someone like, who else can I say? Many of the black stars that are out there. It's us who big them up. But in the majority, what happens is once they get through, they kind of switch.
Yes.
And having switched, they don't put nothing back. And then we try to emulate them. And they're trying to emulate the Europeans, so we're like being led to the slaughter by, because it's like we're sheep and we're being led. You see what I mean? And the shepherds who could switch us to the right path, like as in the Bible, like Moses took his people to the promised land, they're taking us to hell. That's what they're taking us to, and trying to sell us into this consumer, you know, you don't really need it, but you have to buy it because your next door neighbour's got it. You see what I mean? The fashion thing with things like designer label clothes, which the youth put on, spend £500, where did they get it from robbing some of their own? That kind of vibe. So it's a disablement for all black people, as in the spiritual level, which you need to kind of step forward from. And until we step forward from that spiritual, and one way of doing that is if we can all kind of relate to one another, which is through a language.
Yes.
And ever since we haven't got that, the only thing which we do relate through is through the English man's language, or the Spanish man's language, or the French man's language. I'm talking about blacks who think, you see certain blacks who think, we're French. And certain blacks think, we're English. In reality, we're not neither of them, because as someone pointed out earlier, the Jews tried to emulate the Germans, and look what happened to them.
Yes.
So we have to look at these situations and realize that people being treated wrongly by able-bodied people is because of lack of spirituality going on in like where we're living now, and it's just like a kind of end result.
So then, what you see now, because I do, you know, but what you're broadening it out more by saying that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you heard what I started off, Bridge, and I said, there's many of us to this day, we're afraid of the disabled community. You may see someone who's pushing a child that's got cerebral palsy, and you know, like a fear comes within us.
Right.
You know? Now, in terms, what you're saying now, you're broadening that and saying now, because of the lack of my own spiritual knowledge,
right.
That's what's making me feel the way I feel about a disabled person.
Right. I'm willing to express it.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean? Okay. It's just that way. And it's like, if we can go back to that spiritual level, then an Englishman could come with a bag of money for you to sell out your race. And the bag of money means nothing.
It's not worth nothing.
Do you see what I mean? It's not worth nothing. It's like a bag of paper.
Yes.
But the way it is now, the bag of money is what will make a brother kill his brother, a sister kill her sister. You see what I mean? A person sell out the rest of his race. The people who could say something, as in they become prominent black people, not say anything. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what's going on. So we're lacking a need for us to raise that level, and from that everything else will follow. You know what I'm saying? But I know that's just the point which I want to find out.
Adrian, big up for that, and the whole of London Town urge you, all right?
All right, nice.
Keep it locked.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, London Town. Boy, there's another perspective put on disability and how we're handling it within our community. Are we all disabled? Are we all disadvantaged? We haven't got our own language. The money that we use has got someone else's head on it. You know, are we disabled to that point? And again, you know, life being disabled can be difficult in a place like this. For example, how many buses do you know that a wheelchair-bound person can use? Good afternoon, Genesis Radio. Your name, please?
It's me, Paul.
Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, I was like mentioning something about the economics concerning Africa and black people and the diaspora.
Okay.
The thing is though is that I think that when economics like determines people's values, then obviously people's going to take on this animalistic nature or so-called the nature of the beast and behaving extrovert and outlandish behavior, and you're not going to find that they're going to have no loyalty to their people or to assist in the development of their people. But when we determine when our values determine economics, then obviously the people become men and women again. You know, I mean, they start to they start to walk upright and they start to be bright again. But I mean, and the thing is though, right? Obviously, we're going to need a formula to go and assist us in helping us to make this transformation of making our values determine economics and not the other way around. Because obviously that way people's going to come and impose their values on us, and then obviously we're going to be raising all right, they'll be our children, but we're going to be raising our children with their values. And when we raise our children with their values, obviously we're contributing to their future and the system that's going to keep us under for the next 400 years, 1,000 years. So obviously we could be talking about a 1,000-year Reich. You understand? Because these people are planning. Because I mean, it's like the part of the New World Order thing. They're saying that they're planning everything that we've had or have. They're planning to take it.
That's right.
So, and if they're planning to take everything that we've got, obviously, and we ain't got no measures or anything set up in place to go and provide independent facilities with our own community, how can we survive? How can we survive as a people? And more and more you see that people are becoming disinterested in their own culture, in their own way of life. Due to the New World Order influencing specific aspects of our community, and we're not taking note of it. Obviously, it goes unperceived, and once it goes unperceived, obviously it takes its maximum effect because nobody's there to go and push it back or to take check of it because nobody knows it's there. You understand? And if people deny it's there, people therefore continue doing what they're doing. So, I mean, a lot of us have to do a lot of waking up. We have to become and a lot of learning, and we need to go and set up studies and research centres in order that we should become watchers of our own people. And as for the police.
Yes.
This is taking a dangerous precedence because obviously every time it seems like when our people are being arrested and they're getting put in custody, then it comes down to the point now that we have to start to look about defending ourselves because the police are coming to the point now that they're killing out X amount of black men, and obviously the government, the British government, must be supporting them because they have no means of being reprimanded or tried or brought to justice for any crimes they commit against black people. That shows a clear consent from the government that they're supporting these actions, because nothing comes of it. And if nothing comes of it, that means the government is sanctioning it. And if the government is sanctioning it, that means that the government is a hostile government against the black people. If they don't want us here, all they have to do is give us some money and send us back to the land of our forefathers, so that we can go and build up and live in peace. Just stop murdering our black men in the police stations, and then afterwards they come with some Ponzi excuse and then say, they are. It was an accident, it was a mistake, or some pathetic little excuse, and they take it on board. Because I mean, in proportion to the population of this country, why is it we have so much black men dying in police custody and nothing's coming of it?
Yes.
And these people carrying on. They're trying to they're actually looking at us and saying to us that it's some kind of mistake. We shouldn't look on it as nothing racial. It's not racial. These police are not racial. They're upright. They're defending the law and stuff like that. And these black men had to be overtly aggressively, act aggressively, and they did certain things, and certain people got. And this is what happened. This is bullshit, mate. It's too much. It's too much.
I mean, too regular.
And we know that you can restrain a person without killing them.
That's right.
So the fact, unless they was carrying on holding a gun at them and determined to blow them away, then obviously that's the only way you can say, justifiable killing.
Yes.
But then if it's not that situation, then how then do they account for people's hands being tied behind their back and then being suffocated and died? How can this occur? You understand? That shows. It's like some kind of ritualistic sacrifice that they've got going on down here. I mean, killing off. They got a quota every year. They've got to kill out a certain amount of black men. You understand? Because obviously they want to. Maybe they think that by killing that black men, they're reducing crime. And that's probably what, you know what I mean, or some perversion like that they're carrying on with. But whatever, I believe that the government is supporting it, because the government ain't doing nothing at all about it, nor is the Crown prosecution and the judges. Nobody's doing anything about it. So as far as I'm concerned, they're all complicit in it, and they're all their hands in it, and I think somewhere along the road, they've been sanctioned by the government.
Okay, solution now.
Solution. Defend yourself. What can we do? Defend ourselves. Because we have the right to self-preservation. We have the right to exist. And if people's coming to bring them kind of stress to us, that they're going to arrest you. They're not arresting you because you're committing some crime, or they see you committing some crime. They're arresting you because they see that you're black. That kind of racism still is still running red hot in Britain. You understand? And you thought that after all, they were supposed to be living in a multicultural society, we're supposed to be advanced in certain areas. That's all rubbish. We're still that kind of hot racism is still going down. And when they see you, like if they see you driving a good car and stuff like that, they try and pull you up. And the reason why they pull you up, as I said before, is because they know that the system is set that you're not supposed to have these things.
Right.
So therefore, when they see you, they say that the only way you can acquire these things is unless you teeth it.
Yes.
And they can't bear the fact to find out that you didn't teeth it and you got it through through business or some kind of enterprise. So obviously, that tantamounts to an assault by the police on the black community. It's an assault. It's a racial assault. You know what I mean? By pulling you up just because they see you're trying to make progress for yourself, and they don't. And according to them, black people ain't supposed to be in these positions. So therefore, they pull you up. That tantamounts to a racial assault.
So tell me something now, Pete. Do you think it would be worth our while taking this situation on an international platform?
I think that's the only thing that we can do. You know what I mean? Because I think that we need to concept a legal body that can obviously represent us on an international scale, especially in the United Nations, because I think that we need some big representation, because I think that these murders are going unrepresented, and it's happening too much, and the government ain't doing nothing about it. Nothing's been said about it. Nothing's been done about it. And obviously, among ourselves, we can grieve and mourn, but obviously, it's not enough, because they know that that's all we're going to do about it, and we're not going to do nothing more about it. And for that purpose, they continue doing what they're doing. But what we need to do, a lot of them, lazy, solicitors that we've got in our community, they should pull them forward and make them come start representing and put them on an international scale, because we need to go and get ourselves represented back in the United Nations to go and find out what's happening in Britain, why so much black men are being murdered in a police station, and why the government is complicit to it. You understand? Because they're supporting it. The fact they're not doing nothing about it shows their complicity and that they're supporting it. Because if they wasn't supporting it, I guarantee, for instance, like if a white boy got murdered by 2-3 black men, you see how quick they'd arrest him and fling him in jail. Yeah. And the fact that a black man's getting arrested and they're keeping quiet about it and they carry on and all of them are quiet, it shows their complicity. Yeah, they're talking about justice, they're not doing nothing about social or natural justice. These people are dealing with tyranny. That's all it is, tyranny, brutalization and oppression. You understand? Nothing's changed over 400 years. Nothing.
Well, listen, the whole of the city heard you. And I know these people urge you, and boy, we've got to take it on board, as you're saying, you know. But you know, again, I think it's reached a stage where we have to implement some kind of action now. It's no point in talking about it anymore, you know.
For real.
One of the suggestions I'd like to make for people to even think about, everywhere where there's black people in the world, it would be nice if we had even an organisation that we had the top barrister or the top lawyer from that part of the world. They all come together at a conference, and then we go to someone like the OAU, the United Nations. Personally, they can dig up the OAU, Organization of African Unity, is supposed to be representing all of us outside of Africa as well. You know, so maybe it's time that we give them a kick up the pants and get them in order as well.
Well, we do need some representation. We need to protect ourselves because obviously the government's not doing it.
For real. For real. Big up for your call, Bridget.
Okay, Bridget,
input, right?
All right, then. Bye.
You take care.
And you, man. Bye.
Yeah, London Town, boy, top of the hour's coming up on us fast. And, you know, we've got Mr. Senator B, our own, coming in the studio, little from now. Lady Slushy still here. Daddy Coolie still here. Is that other Bridget still here? Daddy Coolie? And the mystery man still in the house.
Good afternoon, you treated Genesis. What's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Sandra from Peckham.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi. I just want to say big up to that last caller. I just want to say, you know, on that note, you know, for the next black person that is murdered by them people, you see how the Asians got up and made it national. That's what we have got to do. So the next, because I know there's going to be a next person killed by these people. So nationally, we've got to really sort of like come together and go out on march and, you know, let it get worldwide. You know, let them know that we are, you know, as black people, we are literally getting up in the 90s and doing something about it. You know, that's what I really wanted to say.
Okay, sis, before you go as well, you know, I want you to give me some opinion on the disabled in our community and the way that we're treating them right now.
Well, to tell you the truth, I think that, you know, as I said, I've got a disability. I'm dyslexic, yeah. I can read. I haven't got my glasses or anything, but it's like certain words I'd be able to read fine, and then, you know, the next minute it's just like a blur to me, you know. But I've managed to, you know, I've had through my life people putting me down, you know what I'm saying? But I've showed these people that, you know, regardless of if I've got this disability, I know I can survive, I can support myself, and I can do well, you know. But it's because it's a lack of love. You know what I'm saying? People want to ostracize you and, you know, just push it aside, you know. But if there was love, help, you know, we could overcome these things, you know.
Okay. All right. You see, like you said that you was dyslexic. Did this affect you at school then?
Yeah, very much. You know, I found it hard. You know, it's like I just didn't want to go to school. I mean, and I love school. You know, I just like being there. But because of the dyslexia, you know, and I used to go into the lessons and I couldn't understand, you know. But it was like, you know, my mum never really had the time because she was always working, you know, 7 children, you know, in the story, you know. So I just had to really fight it for myself. But, you know, it's something that I've overcome myself, you know. I've had to actually do it myself. But, you know, I just feel that, you know, we as a black community, we really do have to sort of like help each other. But I've been saying it for, you know, as I said, we're so into music, you know, and having a good time that we're not really taking our time out, you know, to really help. As I said, everybody's looking on this pay tip. Like the brother said, we have to come off of this pay tip, and we really spiritually have to waken ourselves up, you know, so that we can really, because as I said, I'm here, I do quite a lot for people, you know what I'm saying, and I don't look for no pay, you know. I would like to get paid. I'm depressed because I've got no money, but, you know, at the end of the day, I can see the good that I'm giving out, you know what I'm saying, and I can see other people benefiting from me, so that makes me in myself feel really good, you know what I'm saying. So, you know, we can do it. I know say we can do it. It's just really, you know, getting it out there.
Okay then, Roger.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Nice. Bye.
Bye. Okay, remember the live link number will always be from now on 07050087426. Okay, so if you put that on a piece of paper. 07050087426. Good afternoon, you're in tune to Genesis.
Good afternoon, Daddy Coolie.
Good afternoon. What's the name of you calling from, lad?
Benji, I'm calling from Hackney.
Alright, Benji, how you doing?
Yeah, cool. Just thanks to that, they did some research and thanks to the lady to give you the book same way. But I'm going to ensure that they have another book same way, yeah?
Yes.
And I'm going to post it to that, and it's the Holy Bible, you know?
Right.
Because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the world, and they that dwell therein.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
And it is very important to remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. So when thou go old, it will never depart, you know?
All right, just send all the books that you can come to me. That's fine. That's it.
Truly, and to what the lady said previously, is love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And as an individual, I believe in revolution, but the revolution I believe in, it's a human revolution where every individual human being activate their potential, recognize it, pursue it. And with that, we can create a universal humanity based on values, you know?
Okay. In other words, just use your talents to the best of your ability, and that will, you know, put you forward, yeah?
True, and no matter what society says, just do the best you can, and, do, you know, to the best of your ability, you know?
Yes.
And believe in the Creator, yeah?
All right, then, blood.
Rastafari.
Peace.
Okay, someone's going to post Daddy Coolie a Bible. And any other books. He said, send they'll come. He will read all of them. See? Anyway, London Town, I would still like some input. I know time's running us out. Fast. I thought we would have got at least one call from a parent out there somewhere that's struggling, you know, with a disabled child or a disabled partner in the house. You know, just so that for people, all the people that don't know, let them have an idea, let them have an understanding of what it's like living day to day, you know, in these circumstances. I knew you all wouldn't really want to get into it too tough, because it is something that's taboo in the black community, and that's why I thought it needed to be addressed, because we're just ignoring it, London Town. Amongst all the other problems, we have many, but what about that? Good afternoon.
Oh, hello. I'm calling up about disabilities.
Yes, sis.
Well, I think sometimes that when we think about people who are disabled, we actually see them as maybe a weak link in the family. You know, because we always see ourselves, because of the, say, like our genetic makeup with melanin and stuff like that, that we are strong and forward-moving people. And if we have to look at somebody who's in a wheelchair or perhaps has a speech impediment or a learning disability, we actually look at them as a weakness in ourselves, possibly, and we don't want to confront that weakness in ourselves.
Okay, so then now, right, you sound like someone that's got some professional advice on how to even confront the weakness within ourselves.
Well, not really. I'm just looking at, I work with children, and I have done some work with children, and I have worked with young black children. Some of them have been autistic and have had other disabilities. And I think I'm talking from experience, because I had to work with one particular child who had cerebral palsy.
Okay.
Now, there was some kind of altercation going on with this young black child in a wheelchair and one of the young white kids there, and they were just getting into a fight. And basically, this guy in the wheelchair was not having any of the stuff that, you know, this white guy was giving him. At the end of the day, he still had the spirit and the strength of any other child.
Yes.
But it's because of his physical disability, you know, how he physically looked, I had to actually stand back and look at myself. Because I didn't know how to handle this situation, you know, and I thought, so it actually made me develop and grow as a person. From experiencing that, I think you have to learn to look, just because on the outside we can't deal with appearances anymore. You know, from the outside you see this young child, he's just as intelligent, you know, but it's just because of his physicality that sometimes he will experience prejudices as being, I don't know, prejudices as such. Is that you don't want to confront it as a weakness in a weakness in the family, as such.
Yeah, well, sis, you know, I think you just banged the nail right on the head there. You know, it seems to be something that when we are confronted by it, it just brings fear within us. Now, obviously, by what you're saying, it adds up. If it's because of, I don't know, you know, as you said, we can identify the weakness within ourselves, or, you know, within the wider community. And, you know, many people look on the disabled community as a weak link. You know, and this is what we've got to try and dispel, all of these thoughts, you know, and these interpretations. We've got to try and get rid of it.
I mean, what somebody may not be able to offer you, like in a physical sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they may be able. They've still got a lot of. They've got enough intellect. They have enough spiritual strength as well to get. And I think they've got a lot to give at the same time. You know what I mean? I think we mustn't ignore that. But you know, we're brought up in the world, I think, where appearances matter. You know, it's like if you're not smart enough, if you're not, if you don't look this particular way, if you don't look this good, you know, if you don't look like, say, Linford Christie or something like that, then you ain't having it, we ain't having it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's very narrow-minded. We can't think like that anymore. You know, we can't think about appearances anymore, or, you know. So that was my point, basically. Yeah.
See, speak up for that.
All right.
Right? You just summed it up for me. Nice one. Keep it locked.
Thanks, bye.
Okay. Did you hear that, London Town? It comes back to the same thing. The thinking of us, the mindset that we're in. Where is our mentality at? You know, why are we still judging each other by our physical appearance, the shade of our skin, the texture of our hair? Boy, what's wrong with... Well, listen to this, sorry. Listen to this. I'm going to tell you all again. All right? Editor's note. The following text used in a major speech delivered by Minister Louis Farrakhan is taken from a speech delivered to slave owners in 1712 by slave owner Willie Lynch concerning how to keep their slaves divided. Yes, please, caller. This is Genesis.
Hello, my name's Owen from Plaistow.
Yes, Owen. What would you like to say?
I like Genesis. It sounds good, you know what I mean? And like everybody's talking about like the economy and all this kind of stuff, like, and everybody's like into talking about that, yeah, because like it like creates emotion in everybody, and they want to like get up and do something, right? Now, what you were saying before about like, yeah, you can chat and you ain't doing nothing, yeah.
Yes.
To me, that's true. Yeah?
Yes.
And right now, I don't know anything about disability because I haven't got anybody close to me who knows anything about disability.
Okay.
Now, one man was talking about new values, teaching our children new values, yeah?
Yes.
Now, if you're going to create a revolution, yeah, you have to teach your children new values, yeah? But, like, if we're always talking about the economy and the money and the fact that we're being kept down, right, and we ain't teaching our children a new way to understand each other, yeah, then we ain't going to know nothing. You know what I mean? We ain't going to be able to create no revolution, yeah?
Yes, Bridget.
Right. Now, so what I'm saying is, why don't them black people out there who've got disabled children, speak up so people like me can understand? So I can go out and I can teach my children.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
How to treat their black brethren who's disabled, and we can then, you know, be one.
That's the truth.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a logical way of dealing with it.
What I'm saying is, I want to hear them people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's no use us bigging up ourselves every 2 seconds and, yeah, we can fight and we can do this and we can do that, right? Yeah, and we're being kept down and the economy and all that kind of stuff. To create a change in the economy, we have to create a change within ourselves. And part of that is knowing about these disabled people. So someone has to speak up so I can hear that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely the truth.
All right.
Big up for that, Bridget.
Later, yeah?
One love. Did you hear that, parents, carers for disabled people out there in the community? That's what I've been begging you all from since when? Since the beginning of the show. Listen, you see, listen, like our brother Owen just phoned up there and said, there's people in the community that don't, you know, they haven't got no association with the disabled. So they don't know. Now, if you want them to teach their children better values, bigger values, how to love and respect and everything else on another level so that we can get out of the situation we're in, we need to hear from you all. You know, at least one of you must be able to represent, you know, and tell us, let us know what is it like. You know, tell us how hard it is. Tell us the pitfalls. Tell us even the things that, you know, make you sad, the things that make you glad in the whole of it. You know, and at the same time for us now that do not come across the disabled, you know, all of you people out there that's never spoken to a disabled child or person, you know, and I'm including severely disabled, make a point tomorrow. If you see one of the social services buses with disabled children on it or disabled people on it, make a point of even waving or give them a smile or just acknowledge them and watch the reaction. Because just that alone can be a great therapy, a great tonic. There's nothing worse than you walking down the road and it seems as though your people are just ignoring you. You know, that's not our tradition. That's not where we're coming from. You know, and there's still parts in the world, you heard some callers say that we're all over the place. There's still parts in the world where if you walk past anyone at any time of day without greeting, without saying something, you're bad-mannered, you're ill-couthed and unmannered, because traditionally that's not what we done. See? We always greet our one another. We always acknowledge our one another. So, boy, London town, we've got to just fix up, you know. I'm going to tell you what, you know, because we know that it is extremely hard for parents sometime or people looking after disabled to talk about it. We're not going to pressure you. But I would like you all to bear in mind that we're going to bring back this show. And you see, if you all don't want to phone in and talk, me personally will go out and bring in some disabled children and let them tell you their experience. And then you all know what it's like. But it's something, London town, for all of us as a community, we can't ignore it. You know, don't ignore the disabled within our community. They need our support just as much as we need our support, and we need their support. Right now, the disabled in England is a multi-million-pound industry. So our children, our disabled children in the community is earning money for others. They're making money out of it in London town. Good afternoon. Last caller, can you turn that radio down, please?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Bridget, like I just tuned in and I heard you talking about disabled, yeah?
Yes.
Like, I'd like you to, like, pose the question again for me so that I can understand what you're really trying to get at the moment.
Well, we started off by saying it appears, Bridget, as though our community, we as the black community, are ignoring the disabled within our community. They seem to be isolated, you know? And that's what we was trying to get. The point we was trying to get was, why are we ignoring our own disabled in the community? There's parents out there that are struggling with a disabled child, and they seem to be completely separate from the wider community because of the load that they've got on their hands to deal with. How comes we're ignoring these situations?
Well, boy, in my opinion, I mean, it's something that's been built in from a long time.
Something that's been built in us.
Yeah, it's just like back in our parents' days, things such as sex were taboo.
Yes.
And things such as having a disabled child was a disgrace. So our kids were kept away. Our disabled children were kept away, kept in the dark. Nobody didn't know about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this has been passed down to us and our generations below us. I mean, we've got a little better as we've gone along, but not that much better. We're still hiding our disabled children. It's still coming like a disgrace to us to have disabled children. And I'm talking from the art because I'm a disabled brother.
Okay.
See,
okay.
That's how I see it.
So you're talking? Are you talking from experience then?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So how do you see the situation now, Bridget? Has it improved or what?
It's improved a bit, but it hasn't improved that much. And what needs to happen is that people, able-bodied people, so to speak, need to take time out to show the disabled people that they do care. Because, believe you me, there are a lot of black disabled children out there who feel that able-bodied black people don't care about them.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. So we need to take time out to do, like I heard you say a while ago, when people see one of the disabled school buses going down the road, stop and wave at them.
That's right.
Watch the reactions. We need to deal with people on a one-to-one. When our parents were back in the West Indies, our parents used to talk to everybody walking down the street.
Yep.
We need to start doing things like that all over again. You know why? Because if we was doing things like that all over again, that means we'd have to be talking to the ordinary disabled child that's got a wheelchair or is walking with a pair of crutches or whatever down the road.
That's the truth, Bridget.
And that might just start helping people to start stopping and taking note of what's really going on.
Okay. Bridget, that's beautiful, you know, and thanks for that input there.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
I heard you say that you're going to continue with this.
Yeah.
With this disabled thing, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to bring it back again.
Well, can I ask you when? Because, like, I've got people who are disabled and people who've got disabled children. I'm sure they would come if they knew that such a show was going on.
Yes.
They would come on the show and talk to people.
Okay.
And let the people then really know what's going on with the disabled children. Because on top of that, there's no government grants to be helping these disabled children.
That's right.
You've got one-parent families with a disabled child and a normal child. It's hard work, brother.
That's the truth, Bridget. Well, I'll tell you what, if you can do this, phone back after the show. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that for you, blood.
All right, Bridget.
All right.
Take care.
Peace.
Yeah, London Town. Boy, that's, you know, admirable way to finish the show. We got a caller from a disabled person, and they let us know how it is, you know. So we're gonna carry it on, you know. We're gonna deal with it again, you know. And big up my brethren for giving us that information. Quickly, because Senator B's in the house lining up and ting. In my bag, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee everyone that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is